Let's do the damn thing.
It's that time, so let's take it to the Birdland. That Baltimore home flavor is coming firsthand. Fred, Scott, and Ryan, tell them the word, man. Mixing a little BS to make it work, man. Boys, they got it on excitement, the topic. Make sure when they toss you the ball, you don't drop it. With all that swag, you're gonna listen regardless. Here comes the pitch, so it's time to get it started. It's Birdland BS.
BS.
What's up, BSers?
I'm back in the driver's seat with that. No mistaken identity this week.
Let's say I did pretty good with it last week.
I know. I was going to be out of a job.
What's up, everybody? Fred, Scott, and James in the studio tonight. Back to just the three of us tonight.
Just the three of us.
It's like old times in the house. A lot quieter in here without one or two extra loudmouths.
Particularly one extra loudmouth.
Particularly one. He knows who he is. Man, we got a lot to talk about on the show. It's been a busy week at the Castle. The Ravens, obviously DaCosta continuing to weave his web of magic.
These three men behind me
Gets
they got it figured out.
Another big midseason addition in Pro Bowler, Yannick Ngakoue.
You mean the same guy that we were trying to get in the offseason?
Right, exactly. So we're going to talk a lot about that. It doesn't stop there, though. They end up finally inking the deal, the long-awaited rumor, as they end up inking Dez Bryant to the practice squad, former all-pro wide receiver. And I remember that. I understand he's been out of the game for a little bit.
Yeah.
The former all-pro. So we're going to talk a lot about that as well.
I'm interested to get your take because I've got some strong opinions on this.
And then, of course, it's Steelers week, fellas, ladies, everybody out there. It's Steelers week.
Except for Steelers fans.
Big AFC North division game kind of early on in the year. And then the Terps open the season with a dud as they get steamrolled by Northwestern.
I've got a disclaimer coming at the beginning of that section. I haven't even told you about what that is. But
it was not
going to be
pretty.
A disclaimer.
It wasn't pretty. But before we get started, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland personal injury attorneys that will have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, and I know I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering can all add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that will handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now, 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including gift cards to some local restaurants. All right, man. We got to talk about it. It's Flock Talk. There's been a lot going on. Obviously, the big thing right now is it's Steelers week, and we're going to get to that. But right after last week, Eric went into the Castle, started weaving his web of magic, trying to figure out ways to improve this team as we all kind of knew he would.
Mm-hmm.
Did the same thing at this time last year, and brings us yet another Pro Bowler in Yannick Ngakoue.
This was big, right? Because we know this confirmed all of the, the quote unquote rumors about the offseason that they were trying to make a trade with the Jags to be able to pick him up.
Yep.
But they just couldn't work out a deal. They couldn't get it done. Well, they turn around now and are able to get a deal done with the Vikings.
Right.
Right. And so it was a 3rd round pick in 2021 and a conditional 5th rounder in 2022.
Right.
We got to talking about this, and I thought you brought up an amazing point that people need to remember, because some people were like, oh, we're not going to be able to pay all these guys, this and that. He's got a franchise tag. But you brought up a really great point that if we don't sign him, there's some good things coming our way.
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that could happen here. We're going to talk a little bit about this entire thing, but just kind of honing in on that thought, right? So you said 3rd round 2021 pick, a 5th round 2022 pick. Well, that's adding Yanique to a squad that already has Matt Judon. We know what the issues are with the cap constraints going into next year. The Ravens will not be signing Yanique long-term and Matt Judon long-term. So more than likely at the end of this year, one of those guys are going to walk.
Right.
Whoever it is, I mean, unless one of these guys just falls off the map for the rest of this year.
I think I know who it is. I mean,
whoever it is, when they walk, we will get a third-round compensation pick back in return. Now, granted, it'll be a 2022 third-round pick. Won't be next year. But essentially, we're either getting Yanique for a fifth-round rental to go for the rest of the year if he walks, or what I think, and I think you're kind of on the same page, I think this kind of sealed the deal for Judon's days in Baltimore. I don't think he's going to be back. Yanique was the guy, like you said, to your point, they've been targeting him since last year, since the offseason.
Yeah.
I think this is a guy that they've wanted. He's younger. His sack production's better. I think if they're going to invest anything into a outside linebacker defensive end, it's going to be Yanique.
That's the thing is he gives you, I think he gives you a little bit more flexibility with what you can do with him. Right. You're putting him with another guy like I think Calais Campbell in his interview this week said it really well. Yanique's going to flourish in this defense and what they do and the scheming that they do. He's going to show and just blow it out of the water, right? Look at what he was doing in Minnesota with the limited defense that they actually have up there. And he was blowing it out of the water. He was killing it with the Jags. What's he going to do when you put him around a team of all pros?
Right. And like you said, you pair him back with a guy that he's comfortable with, and Calais Campbell, which Campbell said in his interview where they kind of caught him off guard. Calais had no idea.
Oh, he didn't know. Yeah, that was
perfect.
He
had no idea. If you didn't see this on the Ravens website, there's a video of it where it was Garrett Downing kind of broke the news to him while he was getting ready to sit down for an interview. And Yannick said it like these two guys know each other very well. They know each other's tendencies. They know, when one's kind of feeling a certain way about a certain player, a certain, formation. That's great, especially when you're adding somebody in the middle of a season where you don't really have a lot of time to get acclimated to a new playbook and to new teammates and all. That familiarity is going to bode well for both of them. And this defensive line, to your point, was already loaded with a star cast. You add somebody like this who can actually add pass rush to it, and man, it makes this defensive front so much more lethal.
I mean, can you imagine sending a 4-man blitz now?
Right. Exactly. And
Brandon Williams, Campbell, Judon, and Yanique, if you send all of them somehow.
Yeah, don't forget you got Derek Wolfe up there too. So, and I think long term for this team, I think that's where you're going to see the most benefit. Is we've talked about it for weeks, right? All the unique packages that Wink creates pressure with, with blitzing DBs a lot, blitzing linebackers a lot. And a lot of that is because they can't get a ton of pressure with the front four that they've had in the past. Outside of Matt Judon, they really haven't got a ton of pressure. You add a guy like Yanique to that fold. Now you get more pressure with the 4 and 5. You let your corners do what they're best at, cover. Quarterbacks are going to be, they're going to have fits.
They're going to have a hard time. And it's not just, is he a good player? But you talked about it, him being 25, right? The youth, right? That he's bringing to this already well-experienced line, right? And bring that in. You talked about unique packages. I think you're going to see a couple of Yannick packages in this game.
Right.
So I think it's going to be quite interesting. And I think it's one of those things that we're going to see what we saw the past 2 weeks out of this defense. We're going to see those numbers just increase exponentially because it becomes, for these offensive lines, you talk about it for the trouble for the quarterback. It's more trouble, obviously, for the offensive line.
Yeah.
These offensive linemen are going to be looking at each other going, who the hell do we double team?
Yeah, you're going to have to keep guys in. The tight ends, you're going to have to keep them in to chip to help block. This changes how offenses are going to game plan against this defense. But diving a little bit kind of further into what he brings to this defense. He's a traditional outside linebacker, or he can put his hand in the dirt. Actually, if you look snap count wise, he puts his hand in the dirt more than he stands up. But I think in this defense, he'll be able to stand up more than what he's been used to in Minnesota and in Jacksonville. And his explosion, especially off the jump, off the ball, between him and Calais, that's the thing that Calais is known for. When you look at this guy, you think, God, he's 6'8", he's this heavy guy, but his explosion off the line is unmatched. Yeah. And Yanique is right there with him. It just adds a whole nother dimension as far as athleticism and speed to get around the edge.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something that we're just going to continue to see, and not to mention, right? Got to say it. Former Terp,
Yeah.
How much more comfortable is he now? He's home. You heard him in his interview. I assume you saw the interview.
Yeah.
Where he talked about like he gets to be home with mama.
Right.
Right. He gets to be right there with mom. He's from Bowie. Like
the only thing I didn't like about that whole thing was I found out that he was a Steelers fan growing up.
You better not be pulling back this week, honey.
Kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but whatever. All is forgiven. He's a Raven now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of that plays the part, especially when you start talking about signing him long term.
Yeah.
And the Terp factor, little note, both times we've won a Super Bowl,
we've had a Terp on the team.
We've had a Terp on the roster. We had Jermaine Lewis back in 2000, Torrey Smith in 2012. Just saying, we didn't have a Terp.
I smell a Super Bowl.
Could happen. But I mean, like he should line up at the rush side linebacker and Judon be on the opposite side at Sam. You'll probably see Tyus Bowser rotate kind of between both sides there to kind of give them a little bit of, especially as Yanique kind of learns the defense. His snap count's not going to be very high. He's going to be kind of a situational kind of thing. And don't forget, Pernell McPhee, I think, is flying under the radar. His production is very good, and I think if you can limit his snap counts by adding Yanique, all that does is benefit Pernell.
Yeah, it's all it's going to do is keep him healthy, keep him comfortable, and we know what Pernell brings to the table.
Right.
And we've talked about it before, but the depth that's going to be on this line now for this group is going to be big. And now a guy like Jalen Ferguson, he got a lot of guys to look up to.
He's got a lot of guys to learn from. He can sit behind. Again, you can kind of use him as a fresh body. Situationally. So maybe that helps with his production. But this gives the team a true speed rusher. I mean, they haven't had a guy with this kind of speed and explosion really since Elvis Dumervil. They've lacked that.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, so I think that's where you're going to see the biggest difference. If you're looking for somebody to kind of compare him to, the speed is going to be somewhere similar to Elvis. And like I said, I think this is going to allow Wink to be a little bit more confident in those 4 and 5 man fronts.
I was going to say, how many times do you think he goes cover 0 on this?
Yeah, I just can't see that happening as much. Now, listen, Wink is what he is because of his creativity and because he keeps offenses guessing. I'm not saying that this is going to completely eliminate the frequency, or the amount of times that he actually has people blitzing. I just think the style of blitz, the amount of people that are going to be blitzing is going to change. We're not going to see as many corner blitzes, linebacker blitzes, middle linebacker blitzes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more from the front 4 and 5.
Well, and that's how it should be, because you need these guys to be able to play against the deep ball, right? And so what allows you to play against the deep ball better is to be able to pull those guys back, play a little bit deeper coverage, and then let your rushers do it. And then those interceptions, that's going to be the backside plus to all this, right? We're looking at sacks, right? But the backside plus to all this is the ability to get more interceptions out of this, because there's quicker and harder pressure on the quarterback. We're going to get more rush throws. Now I'm okay with Marcus Peters being a little bit more risky, right? And letting it up, because in theory, there should be that safety behind him, that if he gets deep, the safety is deep enough that he can stick with it.
It's got his back.
Exactly.
I agree 100%. The other thing that he brings to the table too, to kind of go with the theme of this defense, is this guy's good at stripping the ball out.
Yeah.
You talk about forcing turnover, you talk about interceptions and how that's going to benefit the secondary. This team, again, is predicated on turning the ball over. And we've seen it with Marlon Humphrey kind of leading the way with the punch outs and all that stuff. And now you've got, Deshaun Elliott kind of mimicking his game after Marlon. You're starting to see a lot of this defense kind of buy into the strip sack and stripping the ball, period.
Right.
Now you've got a guy on the front line that does the same thing.
But not even just stripping. Like, one of the things that I think we've seen in the evolution of this defense over the past few years, if you think back about 2 years ago, we were talking about, hey, these guys are, they're trying too hard to get the strip sack and they're not wrapping up.
Right.
That's the difference. We're now seeing them wrap up as they're trying to do it.
Yep.
And that's just going to, it's just going to elevate this game to the next level. And I think if I'm Calais and I'm, first time I see Yanique, I'm saying, hey, dude, go talk to Marlon.
Right.
Find out how he does it. And then you do it, but you're doing it on the quarterback, and the running backs.
All right, shout out to our boy Garnett. He chimes in. He's agreeing with pretty much everything that we're saying. Interceptions and sacks are going to go up. We need We no longer a coverage sack team. Exactly right.
Yeah.
At this point, like I said, you can really rely on your defensive front to get you that pressure and to create sacks, which is what we've been asking for a while. This is going to benefit Matt Judon's game.
Now I'm gonna put a little bit of realism. I'm gonna give you a little bit of dose of being realistic, because this is who we are. This week will be a test. The first test. I think there's 2 tests. This first game and the next game. Then we know, because that's how well does Yanique gel with this defensive front. How well has he picked up on wing scheming?
Right.
Because if he's not picking up on it, and we're seeing a lot of offsides, a lot of encroachments, that's going to be a little bit of a concern, because we've heard on so many fronts that this is the most complicated defense guys have played in.
I don't think encroachments or offsides or anything like that's going to play a part in, because he's on the defensive side of the ball. He's still reading the quarterback, the opposite team's quarterback. Yeah. So we won't see that. It's more so the lingo, the language of the defense, and how fast he gets accustomed to that. Because honestly, he can't even get out onto the field, I think, because of protocols until Wednesday, till tomorrow. Right. So he'll hit the field on Wednesday. He's been obviously going through virtual trainings with the coaching staff and diving into the playbook, and just listening to the guy talk. He seems like a smart dude. You know what I mean? Seems like he's got a good head on his shoulder. And again, he's got a really good friend in Calais in his back pocket who will be able to help kind of communicate things to him in a way that Yanique is comfortable with and will understand. Yeah. So I think that transition will be easier than like somebody coming in fresh that doesn't have somebody to help him,
I'm not saying that that's the case. What I'm saying is it is giving us a dose of reality, and we haven't seen him play in this scheme yet.
Right.
And I think he'll do well, just like you. I think he's going to do great. I don't think there's any question. But I do think we have to remember that this is a guy that's moving not only states, right? He moved one state. Now he's moving into another state, all within a year's time, less than a year's time, really.
Right.
Right. But the plus sides that we have going for us, he's moving back home to mama.
Right.
He's comfortable with the guys that he knows. People that he knows are right down the street at Maryland. Right. So you have all these, there's more pluses than there are detractors for him. And I think that's going to play a big factor for us moving forward in these
Shout out to Kali. Offense got to start running more, man, because our defense definitely going to stop some teams. Now, offense got to finish with points. Agreed. So I agree with you. But the thing that you got to keep in mind, this team is already, as much as we all know how much they're struggling offensively, because we were so spoiled, especially with that last 8 or 9 game run that they had last year. They're still averaging 30-plus points.
And aren't they still in the top 5 in the league as far as rushing yards?
Yeah, they're up there. They're not dominating the league like they were last year, and a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. We'll get to all that. But you got to remember, once this team hits its stride is when it's going to become dangerous. And let's shift. Let's shift now over to the offensive side of the ball, because that was the other big news that was finalized today as the Ravens inked former All-Pro wide receiver Dez Bryant to a deal. Now, it's a practice squad deal.
Yeah.
He hasn't played football since the end of 2017. He had a cup of coffee with the Saints, and then he ended up rupturing his Achilles. So he's been out for a while. He's got the injuries and all that stuff. Nobody's taking a chance on him.
And I think the figures on it, it's cheap for us, right? The figures are like $12,000 a week on him.
So essentially what this is going to be is this is just going to be an open tryout, a paid tryout for Dez Bryant, because of all the nuances with the new COVID designations with the practice squad. You wouldn't see this kind of deal happen with veterans. Veterans wouldn't be signed to a practice squad. The reason for that is because of the COVID flexibility that they gave, right? So this allows the Ravens to sign him to the practice squad, pay him $12,000 a week, and just see how he develops and how he actually gels with Lamar in practice and all that, see what kind of game shape he's in. Obviously, when he came in, like a week before the season started, they didn't like something that they saw. And they probably told him, you know what, if you want a chance, go home, get yourself into better shape, come back, and we'll see. And they obviously liked more now what they saw back then, because they end up inking him to this deal.
So what's interesting is there was I think it was on YouTube. So I guess the guy that's his wide receivers trainer that he worked with, he did an interview with, I think it was 105.3 The Fan. It wasn't our Fan,
right?
But it was another fan radio show. And the interview that he was talking about, he talked about Dez went out there and they said, we can't do it right now. Well, wait, and probably towards the middle of the season, we'll be in a better position to bring you on board.
Right.
And so it just goes to show you that conversation, I think, to your point, I think there were some things that he needed to work on, but I think it was also hey, we want to see where we're at, see what we have. We like what you bring to the table, and we think you can help, but we want you to maybe put on a few more pounds or work on your blocking, right? We know that blocking is a big thing. I think it's just
being in game shape. I think he came in a little out of shape. There were rumors about him throwing up at practice. You know, I don't know how true any of this stuff is, but I think it just came down to getting in better game shape. Go ahead, James.
So real quick, the Ravens also have to put him on the list saying that he can't be taken.
Right. Yeah. So that's another thing. If they want to protect him from being taken by another team, right, they would have to use that, 4 or 5 player protection list every week. Another thing that this gives them is the ability to bring Dez up from the practice squad to the main 53 twice before they actually have to commit to signing him to a contract because of that flexibility. So I know a lot of guys out there, when are we going to see Dez? Do you think he comes in week 10? It's hard to say because the Ravens have more flexibility than they would normally have with this because they don't have to commit to signing him, to an actual contract.
Right.
You may see him in a week. You won't see him for the Steelers game,
I don't think
but you might see him in a week from now, and they might just use him in spots, get him in certain situations, get him in like 10 to 15 snaps to see how he is and how he holds up into the offense, and then maybe hold him back for another week. That's the great part is they have flexibility.
I think Chuck brings a good question in. Does Dez come in with a chip on his shoulder and plays like he's back in 2013?
So I don't know how he's going to play, but that's exactly why I think this is a no-brainer move. I know such a low-risk move for the Ravens is because this guy, since he's been out of the league in 2017, there hasn't been anybody more animated about wanting another opportunity to get into the league. He even said when people were saying, well, would you take a tight end role? Would you put on weight to do all this? He'd say he'd do whatever. He wants to play football. He'd do whatever it would take to get back into the league. And that's the kind of mindset you need to have. We all know the immature Dez and what he was in his early days in the Cowboys. And I think that's kind of some of our hesitations, some of our worries that are in the back of our mind. But I really don't think that that's what it is for Dez anymore. I think Dez has had a reality check for the last couple of years. I think he comes in with that chip, as you're mentioning, and I think we're going to get a good Dez. And at this point, honestly, with the lack of production that we're getting at the X receiver from Miles Boykin right now, anything is going to be an upgrade.
Nick brings a question that kind of relates here. Will Dez be a Bolden?
So that's a good question because when you think of Ravens history, right, and you look at some of the veterans that they brought in, when they signed Anquan Bolden, I think he was 31 at the time.
Mm-hmm. He was right. He was up there.
Steve Smith, or he might have been 30. Steve Smith was 35.
I would say he was 35 or 36.
Derek Mason.
Yeah.
I want to say he was in his early 30s. Dez Bryant's only 31.
We have a good history with these.
He fits that mold, right? We could still potentially not only get a decent year out of him, but if he does come in this year and do good, we could see him sign a 2 or 3 year deal because he has that kind of longevity. It really just depends how he melds with Lamar, how much trust Lamar has in him, how his hands look, if he can stay in shape, and if he can prove that he's back from that injury. An Achilles injury is a serious injury, and it takes time to come back. And granted, he's had time.
Yeah.
But you just never know how it really is going to hold up until he gets out there and he's running at full speed.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big thing. And you alluded to it as well, as the chemistry, right? If he doesn't have chemistry, it's not going to help anything, right? But this is $12K a week is to an extent pennies on the dollar.
It is for the Ravens.
For the Ravens,
I would love to make $12K a week, but to the Ravens, it's nothing.
But yeah, no, I think that's the thing. You're paying this guy to come in, give him that tryout, and then I think once you see that there's some type of chemistry there, then you see him for a game. And I think that's the other thing that comes with this agreement is the Ravens probably said to him, later in the year, we'll be in a better position of knowing where we are with cap space. We'll be able to tell you, hey, we want to bring you on, and this is how we'll do it. We'll ease you into it, let you get in. And then when we get you into a game, those 2 games that you talked about before you get the contract,
right?
Those are prove me games.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be you need to put up or shut up. And I think I saw somebody say red zone packages.
And that's another big key for Dez Bryant is he was great in the red zone. And that's one area that we just haven't gotten a whole lot of production. We haven't gotten a lot of production out of Miles Boykin at all. But when you look at Miles Boykin, right, you would think he'd be the perfect red zone target. And the reason that he's not used is, again, the trust factor.
Yeah.
So how fast and how quickly can Lamar get that trust with Dez and really open the field? Because if he can start going through his progressions, now this is one thing Lamar's got to do better. He's got to go through his progressions better. Offensive line's got to give him more time. I get that issue too. He's got to go through his progressions. And if he can start spreading the ball around even more and get another threat on the other side of the field, all that's going to do is benefit
huge
Hollywood, and it's going to benefit Mark Andrews. So this could work out to be a very good, like we call it, dumpster dive kind of move for Eric DeCosta. But I don't think Eric DeCosta's done.
Oh, hell no. He said he wasn't done.
He's come out and said that he wants to continue building this team for their main goal, which is obviously winning a Super Bowl. Word came out today that after the Yanique signing, the Ravens had actually put in an offer to the Eagles to acquire Zach Ertz, another very highly thought of tight end. It would have given that second pass catching tight end like I talked about last week, and I think is important to this offense. We saw how much the drop off without Hayden Hurst. Zach Ertz would have been a huge addition to this team. Unfortunately, he ended up getting hurt going on the IR. Thank God we dodged that bullet before it happened. But what that tells me is that even after the Yanique signing, and obviously Dez doesn't count much towards the cap or anything,
not yet.
that he's not done. And there could be another move on the horizon.
I think there's got to be another move on the horizon. You have to do something for this offense. You have to give him another weapon, or somehow, I know we've talked about it. I know we've had discussions at end that there's nothing there that we're going to see necessarily in a trade, but picking up somebody to help out this offensive line, it would be huge. I was thinking about it, and last week I kind of saw it, and they're not in a position that I think they'd give him up. But adding a guy like Andrew Whitworth to the line, now I know he's a left tackle, right. So we already have Ronnie Stanley, but just asking one of the other guys to step and move somewhere else, just to add security to that offensive line.
I'm 100% with you, man. I would love to be able to add another offensive lineman, because right now I think that's our biggest need. It's just you don't see that in the middle of a season. Sometimes you'll see guys get released because maybe a team has a little bit of depth, or maybe a team's trying to shed money or whatever, which very rarely happens with offensive linemen.
But to your point, that brings out the fact that they need weapons then, right? And I think it was who was it just time to Deshaun, Evan Ingram, right?
Evan Ingram would be a great pass catching tight end. The problem with him is, do the Giants value him and see him as a long-term option for the future at tight end? And he has questionable hands, right? As great as an athlete as he is, Christ, the Giants had him the other day running reverses. When's the last time you saw a tight end run a reverse?
It's true.
I mean, granted, it's the Giants, so whatever. But that just goes to show what they think of his athleticism. He's a great athlete, but I don't know if Evan Ingram would. I'm not saying he wouldn't fit, because I think he'd be a good addition. Just got some question marks with his hands, and are the Giants willing to give him up?
Joe Carloza says I heard Waller too.
I have not heard Waller. Waller would be a huge addition for this offense. Give them another, like you said, red zone target.
I wonder what his cap space would be like.
Because I had never heard it. I haven't even looked at his cap number, so I have no idea if the Ravens could even make that work. Listen, I think personally there's some room, right? I think they have, after everything's all said and done, they have just shy of like $3 million left in cap space. I think it's like $2.8 million right now. I think there's some room that they could rework Marcus Peters' deal to get it like $4 million extra in cap. So it gives them like $6.5 million in cap space. There's room for them to get a decent contract for the rest of this year, to get a decent wide receiver. I think that's more along the lines of what you're going to see. You're either going to see a good pass catching tight end or another good veteran wide receiver. I think Eric DeCosta said this in the offseason. He wants to put as many weapons around Lamar, many playmakers around Lamar as he possibly can. And if he was going after Zach Ertz, it tells me he's trying to put another playmaker around him.
All right, so we're talking and just throwing this out as hypothetical. How many years do we have left on Calais? We have another year after this year, right?
Right.
Maybe
Another year or two. I think it's a year.
Maybe you could rework that contract.
Yeah,
Give him more next year, and maybe even
you don't want to handicap yourself too much next year because you don't know what the cap's going to look like next year because of COVID. If the cap number comes down, you're already going to be tight, and you've got some big contracts you got to sign.
If you readjust his contract and add in another year, but you say, look, we're going to give you, I'm just throwing a number out there right now because I don't even know. We're going to give you another $1.5 million, $2 million overall, right, over the next 3 years. But we want to do that so we can restructure and turn around and take that money that we really would be giving to you this year, but we're going to give it to you over the next few years so that we can go get Lamar another weapon.
Right.
I feel like he's a guy that would take one for the team. Right. That's why he won the Walter Payton Award, not just for his work on the field, but his work off the field and his just overall team mentality. Right. And I'm here for the team.
There's definitely ways for them to flex it around and make more cap space. I think from what I had read the other day, Marcus Peters made the most sense. It would be the easiest for them to do, and it wouldn't hurt Marcus in any kind of way. He still get his money. It would just be in a different form. And that would free up $4 million, give you 6 point something million to work with. But at the end of the day, you know, some of these guys out here are talking about the Ravens not having any playmakers outside of Lamar. That's not true. I mean, when you talk about Mark Andrews, we were talking about a top 5 tight end in the league, right? Production-wise last year, top 5 tight end. Hollywood Brown can be a dangerous playmaker if he has a Batman on the other side, right? Like right now, he can't be a one-man show. He's too small of a wide receiver, and he's too one-dimensional right now. I don't think they're using him the right way. You get somebody else they have to account for on the other side of the field that changes Hollywood Brown, and I think his usage in this offense.
We got a lot of people chiming in asking what we think about going after Delaney Walker. Rob Johnson says Delaney Walker, Mohamed Sanu. Fast Eddie says Alshon, Tate, Shepard, Ingram, Ertz. A lot of bad teams are dumping, and you can get a pass catcher for fairly cheap. And you're right.
I agree with Fast Eddie. Those are all names that I would entertain. I don't know how much I like Golden Tate, Shepard, Ingram, Ertz. I mean, obviously Ertz now on the IR.
What about Walker and Sanu? Those are the two that have been coming up here a lot more, I think, in the chat.
Both of those guys are free agent. Walker hasn't played at all this year, so you got to figure out what kind of shape he's in. But he was always a dynamic tight end. He was a great pass-catching tight end. I like Delaney Walker. I was surprised that they didn't entertain the idea of bringing him in the offseason. And then Mohamed Sanu, I like Mohamed Sanu. Patriots gave up on him. He didn't work in that system. It does give them a veteran. I put him kind of on the same line of like Marvin Jones, getting Marvin Jones from the Lions. I think it would be a good small veteran get, but I just think Eric DeCosta's going for a bigger splash move, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Go ahead, James.
Sanu is with the 49ers. They traded him, didn't they?
I know he was with the Patriots. I don't know if they released him.
I think they released him, and then the 49ers
signed him. Okay. But I think
the
49ers...
I don't think he's actually been playing.
I feel like the 49ers might have released him too.
Yeah.
I think he's a free agent at this point. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look that back up.
With all their injuries up there, you think they would have a...
Yeah, right. They lost Debo again for a couple more weeks, so we'll see. But yeah, I like some of these names, but I just got a feeling, knowing DeCosta and the way he's been working the phones and everything, I got a feeling a bigger move's coming.
It has to be, and I think we're all on the same page.
Don't be surprised if Eric DeCosta doesn't make another move to improve the defense even more, because there have been rumors out there around Brian Poole. His name was kind of rumored out there. The Patriots have been said to be shopping Stephon Gilmore, which would be absolutely ridiculous.
Can you imagine that?
No.
Marcus Peters, Stephon Gilmore, Jimmy Smith, Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah. I don't even know. Like that's
you can rush everybody else.
That's literally a fantasy defense, like a fantasy defensive back. It's just ridiculous if you were to add somebody like that. I can't see the Patriots trading Stephon Gilmore inside the conference to the Ravens unless the Ravens blew him away with a deal. But man, you have Gilmore, Peters on the outside. You move Marlon into the slot permanently. It gives you more flexibility. Like we talked about using Jimmy as a corner and a rotational safety piece. Mind blown.
Garnett says, chill out. It's not happening.
I know. I'm not saying it's going to, but I just don't be surprised, man, because Eric DaCosta just continues to pull these rabbits out of his ass.
He figures it out. Fast Eddie, by the way, said that the 49ers did dump him.
I thought so. I thought so. Kenny Golladay, that's another good name. I don't know that the Lions would be willing to give him up. I think he's a piece that they would want to hang on to long term. Yeah. But man, he'd be a beautiful fit in this offense for sure.
All right, so it's enough looking at what's happened this week and what can still be happening in the coming days.
Yeah.
But let's take a look and turn our focus to this week. It's Steelers week, people.
Yes, sir.
I've been waiting all day to talk about this because all I hear, I work with like 4 or 5 Steelers fans, and it's chirp, 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 chirp,
I'm
chirp,
sorry.
chirp, chirp.
That sucks.
And I'm like, I have my video conferencing on. I got my Ravens flag in the background, and all of them this week magically found their Steelers terrible towels, and somehow, they're hanging up.
Burn them. I
like,
cannot
really?
stand those goddamn towels. Burn them all.
Anyway,
Ugh.
it's Steelers week. Look, I can't knock them. They're 5-0.
Yep.
They've had some close games, right? We all laughed at the Eagles game with them.
They're 6-0.
Or yeah,
Or 6-0. Sorry, 6-0
at this point, right?
We all laughed at the Eagles game with them. And then look what happened with us with the Eagles.
Yeah. Yep. Then they come out against the Titans and they jumped out to a massive lead, which I thought they were going to blow the doors off the Titans.
And then the Titans come back.
It just goes to show how good Tennessee is. But yeah, man, this is.
Does that show you though that when if you can wear down their defense a little bit, you can expose some holes?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think there's no team or organization that knows that team better than the Ravens. John Harbaugh. We talk about continuity all the time, right? I know our personnel as far as players has changed, but our personnel as far as head coach has not changed. He knows Mike Tomlin and this offense better than anybody, right? He knows Ben Roethlisberger's strengths, his weaknesses. He knows how this offense operates better than anybody. And that's why you see whenever these two teams play against each other, the records go out the window. That's why these are always some of the best rivalry football games that you can watch in sports, not just the NFL, in sports.
I think in the past 5 or 10 years, there's been like 1 or 2 games, maybe 3, that have been decided by more than 3 points.
Something like that. It's ridiculous. Again, records mean absolutely nothing. And it's hard for you to say, well, because they played against this team, does that mean we got a better chance? That means nothing when it comes down to these teams, right? And I'll tell you, as much as I hate him, as much as I hate this squad, Ben Roethlisberger is playing great right now.
It pains me to say that. I was hoping he'd come back and fall flat on his face.
He's my age. He's 38 years old. He's got a 69% completion percentage, which is 5% higher than his career average. 1,178 yards, 11 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. The dude's playing good. And as we talk about all the time, Pittsburgh is a damn wide receiver factory. It's a new target every week.
Here recently, it's been fucking Claypool, who's been amazing.
And then last week, it was Deontay Johnson against the Titans. That's the problem is you can't get too focused in on one player. Like back in the day, if you shut down Santonio Holmes, if you shut down Hines Ward, they didn't really have other targets that they could go at. You had like 1 or 2 guys that you could shut down and be all right. This offense, it could be anybody. It could be Juju. It could be Deontay Johnson. It could be James Washington. It could be Claypool.
Which is crazy because I can tell you right now, any Steelers fan that I know at the beginning of the year really completely thought that they needed another number 2 or number 1. Like they needed to go get one.
Right.
No, it was there, guys. And so that's what baffles me. Oh, we told you we were going to do so great. Bullshit. You all thought you were going to be like 500. You didn't know how Ben was going to come back. You didn't know how you were going to have a run game. You didn't know how you were going to have a passing game. The fact that your passing game has opened up has allowed James Conner to really, get back in stride because the first few weeks he was being shut down. Now he's, getting back into stride. You have all these young wide receivers, and it's the trust that Ben has built with them in a short amount of time, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Is pretty impressive.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think the thing that rattles Ben Roethlisberger the most is pressure, right? Because this guy, 38 years old, not the most mobile quarterback. He's never been the most mobile quarterback. He's strong. and he can carry one or two guys on his legs and stay up and make a play or get the ball off at least. But I think that's where we're going to see how much does having Ngakoue change this defense and change the amount of pressure that they're able to get on Roethlisberger to keep him uncomfortable and to not give him too much time.
Well, and Drew chimes in and says he's playing great at dink and dunks. His deep ball is shit, which it wasn't the greatest, but he did have a pretty decent deep throw this past weekend. We were watching it and like, that wasn't bad.
Right. And that's to my point. That's what I'm trying to say is you got to get to him quick.
And he knows it, but I think Garnett sums it up right now. As much as we hate to say it, you and I are very realistic when it comes to this stuff. I hate to say it, and if you work with me, close your ears. He is playing MVP level. As Garnett said.
I agree. And that's especially, and now granted, I thought Russell Wilson was head and heels above everybody else as far as MVP conversation goes. Russell Wilson had a shit game on last night.
He proved he's
Sunday night.
He proved he's mortal this week.
Right. Yeah. 3 interceptions in that game that you just don't ever see that out of Russell Wilson. Go ahead.
But also about Big Ben, they said like he's actually getting the ball out the quickest ever.
That's what he's saying is it's a lot of short passes. It's a lot of quick dump offs, that kind of stuff. So I say you got to get to him quickly if you want to be efficient. And I think not having to blitz so many players, we can actually play in a zone and keep our defensive backs out there is going to bode well for our defense.
Yeah, and I think some people are chiming in asking how many picks did he have last week? And yes, he did have 3 picks last week, but at the same time, he had 3 picks last week and still on the offensive side of the ball played really well. Those 3 picks didn't, I think one of them actually wound up being turned into points by the Titans.
Right.
The other 2 were not. So the back half of the game was actually not him, getting those picks and then being turned into points and basically the offense losing the game for them. It was straight their defense. They were getting beat. The passing game got opened up by the Titans on them. They exposed some holes. They hit a few deep shots, a few cross routes. Right. It worked for them. They found some holes in that defense. And that's what my point was earlier was I think there's a lot that we can learn from what teams like the Eagles and the Titans did during the second half of the game. Right. But at the same time, be able to put that pressure on Ben. Ben hasn't seen the pressure the past few weeks that he is going to see this week.
Right. Clowney got kind of roughed up in that game last week, so he wasn't out there the entire game. So again, and they don't know what to account for Ngakoue in this defense. Neither do we as fans, right? And what that effect's going to be. So, all right, flipping it on the other side of the ball. The other thing that you have to take into effect here is the Steelers defense and how good they are. You talk about pass rush, right? When you look at this trio or really it's 4 of them. You got TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Stephon Tuitt, and Cam Hayward. The 4 of those can wreak havoc, especially when you got an offensive line having the issues that we've had this year. TJ Watt's got 4.5 sacks. Bud Dupree's got 5 sacks. Stephon Tuitt's got 4 sacks on the year. These guys get after it, and Lamar is going to be on the run, right? So this is going to be a big test for our offensive line, a good litmus test, especially coming off the bye week, right? They got a little chance to get rested up and get healthy. They're going to have their work cut out for them this week.
Yeah, I think when you look at what they're going to need to do with locking these guys down, I think the addition of Yannick is going to add to that, right? Because as we said earlier, their ability to play coverage ball and let the sacks happen naturally before you even have to worry about coverage sacks, that's what I'm looking at. And so for me, I think this is going to be huge. On the offensive side of the ball, we've talked about it. The run game has got to get going.
Yeah,
it has got to get going. Dude, I love Mark Ingram, but he cannot start this game if he starts this game, I will be very disappointed. And if he starts this game, I will say this right now. If he gets the first run of the game if he gets more than out of the first 5 runs of the game, if he gets more than 1, we will lose this game.
I don't think Ingram's going to play. I think we're going to see a lot of Dobbins and Gus the Bus
as we
in
should.
This game,
we should.
That's where I think we're at. Gives us more athleticism with Dobbins back there. Let Ingram heal up, right? We have the depth. We still haven't used Justice Hill. So Justice Hill is about as healthy and as fresh as they come, right? So we keep him as our 3rd running back. Let Ingram get healthy, and let's see what we got in Dobbins.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got. And we're going to need it. We're going to need, we talked about it, pass catchers, playmakers. I think Dobbins, we're just scratching the surface
of
what he can do in this offense, especially catching the ball out of the backfield. So
everybody's talking about bringing Yanda back. If I'm bringing Yanda back right now, it's as a fucking tight end.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yanda looks more like he's ready to play soccer or lacrosse than he does football or offensive line specifically anyway.
Yeah.
But that would be great to have him. Another thing, got to watch. The Steelers wide receiver core versus our secondary. Like I talked about, how good they are, strength versus strength.
Yeah.
Who wins that battle? Especially now, again, when you have that extra pressure from your defensive front, you can keep those guys back there.
If I'm being honest, I think it plays while they have youth on their side. We have experience. And I think that's what plays to our advantage. Right. Because some of these guys, you start letting some of these rookies make some mistakes against good defenders. You can start getting some more picks, right? I'm not saying this is going to be a pick heavy game or anything, but what I am saying is expect for these guys to lock down their receivers. I expect a little bit more man coverage in this game. And I think your safety is going to be key in this game.
Yeah. I don't know. I got a feeling, I think they're going to play a little bit more zone.
You think?
Yeah. And I think that's going to give them the ability, Marcus Peters, to read and react. I think we see Marcus Peters have a big game. I think we have Marcus Peters when he's given time, especially on those short routes that they've been running all year, when he's given time to keep a wide receiver in front of him and read the quarterback's eyes, that's where you see him take those shots, take those gambles. I think we could see a pick or maybe even two from Marcus Peters this week. I'm going to go bold. I really think he's due. He's due for a big game. I think he has a big game in this game.
Okay. See, I'm going to go the opposite way, and I think Deshaun Elliott has the big game.
I like it.
I think Deshaun Elliott
playing great.
I'll go bold on the other side. I'll say Deshaun Elliott has 2 picks in this game.
All right.
Because he's got more time to react to the ball.
All right. I like it. All right. Before we get into predictions, James, let's do a social media shout out. Who's been out there? There's been so much going on in the chat room. We hit 100 messages in like 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, it's been going well. We have our Drew, Garnett, Joe, Dominic, Deshaun, Ryan, Stefan, Kamal, C. Iron Addict, Nick, Sherry, Kali, Rob, Chuck, Morgan, D-Bag 0584, J Dubs 45, Tony, Fast Eddie, and Courtney.
Nice.
So it's been going. Like, keep them coming.
Yeah, man.
Any good comments?
We've just been hitting on everything about
keep them coming, man. Yeah. Keep the comments coming in. We'll try to get
Nick
to them.
out of the way. AB is not with the Ravens, so
yeah, Nick. I haven't seen Nick chiming in about him. Has he?
He chimed on in about it. A couple people said who? I think it was Joe. Who you think's the better pickup, AB or Dez Bryant? I said AB's probably going to be the better pickup.
I think it's Kali Mamu says Marlon going to be on Juju again, and Peter's going to stop playing 20 yards off the ball.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play 20 yards off the ball. I think he's going to, because again, with the way that they run their routes and keeping everything short, I think he might give them like a 5 to 8 yard cushion. But he's going to do enough to keep the wide receiver in front of him and be able to read Ben's eyes. I'm telling you, I think he has a big game.
He has to.
That's his strength.
I've said it, my opinion, Marcus Peters does not wrap his receivers up very well. Because of that, if he gives Claypool too much room, right? Because I'm only making the assumption he's going to be on Claypool.
Yeah.
If he gives Claypool too much room at that point, Claypool's going to run right past him.
Yeah.
He's got the shiftiness. He's got the speed. The kid's good.
All right, well, let's get into primetime predictions. Let's talk about this game to start. How did we do last week, Scott? Do you got the records for last week?
Yes. So last week, Fred, you went 2-2.
Yeah, not my greatest week.
No. Brian and I went 1-3.
Not your greatest week.
Nope.
Yuck.
Ryan went 3-1.
And old James.
No, I wasn't going to bring that up. James went 4-0.
Old James, his first 4-0 week.
Put yourself on camera, celebrate. Let everybody see celebrating over there. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That damn
about the
Seahawks and Cardinals
put it back on yourself.
game.
It's about the only win you got this week. Isn't that right?
I win every day.
Every day I wake up is a good
Except
day.
in fantasy when he loses to me.
It wasn't just a win. It was a fucking blowout by
165 to 86.
You could beat me with just locking.
Yeah, I probably
Lock
could have.
in the defense.
And then I got the pick to click this week, which was like my 10th at this point or
You've
something.
got 5 at this point. I think one more and 1 or 2 more, and you like solidify it for the season.
Right.
There's no way anybody can come back from that. But yeah, so overall records, you're 19-9.
Yeah.
Ryan and James helped himself here. They both moved to 18-10.
One game behind me.
I'm 15-13. Brian is 14-14.
All right.
So all around, pretty good. You were off only by 3 points this way on that pick click.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty good.
Giants
pick
and
there.
Eagles. I had them 27-24 and ended up finishing 24-20.
All right, so let's move to the first game. Obviously, we always look at the Ravens game first.
Yep.
You guys out there, make sure you give us your predictions. Let us know. I see some predictions already starting to come in, which is good. We'll share them out there. Ravens Steelers, 1:00 Sunday. Who you got?
It's going to be a typical Ravens-Steelers contest in the sense that it'll be close. But this will not be a typical Ravens-Steelers contest as far as total score. All those defensive battles, and as much as we talk about the defense on both of these teams and how good they are on both sides of the ball, I still think both of these teams are capable of putting up a decent amount of points. I got the Ravens. I'll be honest with you. It took me a while to figure this out and really decide on which way I was going to go. But I think the Ravens equal this one out 31-28. High scoring game for this
I'm not
game.
far off from you. I actually made it took me a little bit. We get these predictions out usually
Dominic,
Sundays.
30-27. Damn,
There
we're
you
real
go.
close to each other.
We usually get these out pretty Sunday, pretty early, right? But Drew, 31-27. That's another close one there.
Yeah.
For me, I debated this. I waited until about noon today before I put this pick in.
All right.
And I picked the Ravens too. Again, in a close game, just like you. I think defenses do play a little bit of a role here. I've got 28-24 in favor of the Ravens.
All right.
James, who do you got?
Again, I'm gonna say like how I did last week. If this game was in Pittsburgh, even though I love my Ravens, I would probably go with the Steelers. But it's at home. Coming off a bye for us, get that rest, get a new free agents in. I have them winning 34-27.
Okay.
All right.
To your point about it being at home, right? That's something that's always been a factor, especially in these games. The crowd noise at both stadiums, Ravens Stadium and up in Pittsburgh, the crowd noise is always a factor. There's always a delay a game or two that you can account for in that game. That's not going to be the case. Now, they are letting fans into the stands this week, but it's only going to be like 7,000 fans, or I don't even think it's 7,000, 4,500, something like that.
7,500.
7,500. Okay. So yes, there will be noise there, but it's not going to be on any kind of level of what it normally is.
No.
So that's another factor you got to think in this game that's just not there that normally would be.
Yeah, no, it's something that's going to play a big role. Ryan thinks it's also going to be close. He doesn't have it as a high scoring game as the three of us.
Which he's probably right.
Right. He's got Ravens 24-20. And we're going to go ahead and just call out Brian right here, right now. He's not here, but I know he's in the chat room. I know you're listening.
No wonder he didn't come today.
Exactly. He
didn't want to
come
take
because
the
he
heat.
put this pick down. Not only did he pick the Steelers to win, but he picked them to win by 2 touchdowns.
God, I hope he's not right. I do not want to come here next week and have to deal with Brian picking the Ravens to lose by 2 touchdowns and him being right.
No,
If
he won't allow to be able to come in that week.
He won't be allowed in my
Brian-
house ever again. if he
Brian's
does
seat
that.
is permanently occupied.
Yeah,
He's
right.
trying to catch up to us also, so I think he went that way too.
So,
but
yeah.
also another factor is the weather.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a factor in this game,
Yeah,
too.
so he's got it 34-20 in favor of the Steelers.
Wow. All right, let's move on.
Crazy.
Let's not talk about him anymore. Thursday night football in what should be a decent game, especially offensively. You got the Falcons going into Carolina to take on the Panthers. I think this will be kind of another close game. The Falcons are playing better since they made the changes with their coaching staff and their GM. I still think that they're completely going through retool, rebuild mode, whatever you want to call it. I think there's going to be some pieces that leave Atlanta to go to other teams. But I think that they'll be competitive in this game. I do like Teddy Bridgewater in that offense, especially the fact that he's starting to get DJ Moore involved. That helps me in my fantasy, right? DJ Moore's had a couple of I think 2 or 3 games now in a row. He's done really well.
Is that really the only reason that you picked the Panthers to win this?
Maybe. I'm hoping DJ Moore gets another 2 touchdowns in this game like he had last week. I got the Panthers winning this one 28-24.
All right, I'm not far off from you. I've got the Panthers winning it as well in a close game. I do think because the defenses are a little scrappy on both sides of the ball here. I've got this being a little higher scoring than you do. Not much, but just a little bit. I've got it 30-27 in favor of the Panthers. James, who you got?
I don't have it far off because me and Fred have the same score.
Oh, wow.
28-24.
Nice.
There's a possibility that CMC comes back that helps out.
I don't think he's going to come back this week.
He says he wants to come back, but I would just let him rest.
Yeah, one more week.
The offense is clicking. I think leave it alone. They could probably beat the Falcons, but you never know with the Falcons. They could have a blowout game out of this game. So
I don't know. The way the Falcons have been playing, they have them off punt. They go into the end zone.
They play sloppy football, but they put up a lot of points. That's the thing. They definitely put up points. Ryan's got the Panthers also winning this game 35-27. Brian, again.
just trying to play catch up.
Brian, the only one going against the mold here. He's got the Falcons winning this by 10, 30-20.
All right, let's look at the Sunday night game. Now, this is a game that had, last week we've been looking at this. It might have been a little more interesting.
2 weeks ago, maybe.
2 weeks ago, even. But this week, Cowboys at the Eagles. This game, to me, I just
should have been flexed. It should have been flexed the hell out of it.
It very well still could be. We've seen them flex not for this reason.
No, I don't think it can be this
mainly
late
been for COVID, but I think they should have flexed it. It should have been moved out. But this game, I've got this being an easy Eagles win, and I'll just say it across the board. We all have the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
I think this was the one, one of the locks this week. I've got this being on the Eagles' favor, 28-13. I don't know what this Cowboys offense is going to fucking look like.
I don't even know who's going to be playing quarterback. Who the hell is going to be throwing the football? Andy Dalton got his head wrung.
Maybe RG3.
Wow. I think if that was going to happen, he was going to start this week. That would have happened already. But yeah, no, I don't. This Cowboys team, I'm telling you, this goes to show what I always say about how important the quarterback position is to a team and how important it specifically is to this franchise, because without Dak Prescott out there, they can't do anything through the air. And when you ask Zeke Elliott to be the bell cow to carry your offense, and now defenses are stacking the box because they can't do anything against, through the air.
Yeah.
It's not boding well for this offense.
We're going to talk more about the Cowboys in the rundown, by the way.
Yeah, I got the Cowboys losing this game. I got the Eagles winning 30-19. And that's not to say that I think that the Eagles are so much better. I just think Dallas is that bad without Dak.
I'm surprised you're giving Cowboys that much credit for 19 points in this game.
James, what do you got?
I have it almost kind of close. I have it 31-17. Ertz can just, not Ertz. What's the quarterback?
Wentz.
He can have a hell of a game. What they did against the Giants, who the Giants are now a better step than the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense trash, dude. They can put garbage cans out and probably tackle better than that.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, that rookie
game, 31-17, and the quarterback's going to be the backup for Dalton. There's no way Dalton's coming back.
Chuck, stick around for the rundown. We're going to get into your question there.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Ryan's got the Eagles also winning 27-10. Brian finally on board with all of us. He's got the Eagles winning 30-10.
He's got blowouts on every freaking game by 10 points or more.
Monday Night Football, pretty much the same thing across the board. You got one team going in one direction. You got another team going in the other direction as the Bucs take on the Giants. Tom Brady, man, I tell you, at 59 years old or however old he is at this point, still looks great out there.
Wait. Aren't you as old as he is? Shouldn't you know his age?
He's older than me. Older than me.
Oh. Are you sure about that?
He's older than me by like 7 years, Scott. He's older than me.
Me and Brady are 1 year apart.
So
now you're saying I got to get the old jokes over to you.
I'm the oldest in the room.
Well, listen, he looks great. He's starting to get that chemistry back down with Rob Gronkowski. Gronkowski looks like he's getting into better shape at this point.
We're seeing them they're hitting stride.
And they just added Antonio Brown to the mix. Now, granted, he can't play this week. He's got to wait until the suspension over, and then he's got to get into acclimated and all that stuff. But it's just crazy how the rich get richer. I don't know how they're going to play all these wide receivers. Maybe somebody becomes available. I don't know. Maybe it's Mike Evans because his production's dropped off a lot. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to have a boatload of options at wide receiver. And the Giants, I mean, they look as bad as that touchdown run attempt that Daniel Jones had there, and he just fell on his face. That's been like the epitome of the Giants season.
Didn't Shamble take Daniel Jones in the fantasy?
Oh, yeah. He definitely took Daniel Jones in his fantasy draft.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
the best is the memes.
And stood behind
the
it.
memes, especially with the Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
Right. Running trips.
Oh, my God. It's hilarious. Anyway, I got the Bucks winning this in the landslide. I've got them winning 35-17.
I got a bigger landslide than that. I got 45-10 Bucks here. This is a no-brainer for me. If somehow the Giants pull something out of their ass, I'll be like, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I'll down a whole shot or a whole liter of something on the show at that point. I don't even know what to bet on that because there ain't no way it's gonna fucking happen anyway.
James, what do you got?
I had the Bucks winning 48-21. What he did against Vegas, he could do probably a little bit more against the Giants.
I'd say so. Ryan's got Bucks winning this one 35-10, and Brian's got it 42-7. All right, Scott, it's time for the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. And what does Jerry and the crew have me sipping on in our Birdland BS cup today?
So Jerry was on vacation, but what they gave us was it's from Nepenthe Brewing Company. It's on draft, so we've got our growler over there with James. James has the growler up, the nice Liquor Stop Metal Growler, by the way, which is very nice.
It is nice.
So make sure you guys go get yourself one when you get this. But it's from Nepenthe Brewing Company, which is right over on Falls Road, by the way.
Nice.
So not too far.
I know I'd heard of them.
This is their milkshake IPA called Lord Bones. It's 7.1%, and they say it's double dry hopped, which you get that natural like hoppy IPA type flavor. But what gives it like a creamy, smooth finish? They call it a pineapple and creamsicle.
Yeah.
Right. James doesn't like his creamsicles, his dreamsicles over there. So
missing out.
He's liking this, but it's they add Madagascar bourbon vanilla beans to this.
It's a whole lot of words.
It is a whole lot of words, but. I have to be honest. Like we've had some milkshake IPAs, and some of them are hit or miss.
Yeah,
this one's a hit for me.
I like it. It's not too sweet. It's not bitter in any kind of way. It does give you a little. I will say this: the only thing about this is it gives you a little bit of like a cotton mouth, because it gives you a little bit of a dry mouth.
It's a one and done type beer. Like I'll have one, but then I'm that's it.
Right. But it's good. You said it's like 7.1%.
7.1.
Yeah, it's a good strong beer. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you like milkshake IPAs.
And I'm also going to bring out two other things. James, if you can put yourself back up and show what I picked up for us again this week. If you guys have not had this stuff, you've got to go up to Liquor Stop and get this stuff. It's called Purple Fields from Oliver Brewing Company. This stuff is good. It pours purple, and you've had it.
Yeah.
Would you? I almost wouldn't classify it as a beer because it doesn't taste like a beer.
Right. Yeah, it definitely doesn't taste like a beer. It's
beer.
It's more sweet than anything, and I love sweet drinks, so of course I'm going to love that. And the fact that it pours out purple is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you're a Ravens fan, obviously.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
But the brew of the week, it almost like a Blue Moon taste to it to me.
Similar.
I can see that a little bit.
I can see that.
It's got the fruitiness to it. I can see that. So the last one that I had to bring up, so I just happen to be like looking over there because my wife's always looking for like ciders or seltzers or something.
I love ciders.
So I happen to be looking in their cider and seltzer section, and cider and seltzer section.
Can I tell you something?
I hate Ventura.
Say that 5 times fast. This is it's Dreamsicle Orange Cream Hard Apple Cider.
Mine's gone.
This is from Red Shedman Farm Brewery, which I believe is in Mount Airy. So, here at local Maryland brew, it's 5%. So it's not like heavy, but this shit's damn good.
It is. It's really good. It doesn't remind me of a Dreamsicle, but it's sweet. It does have a little bit of an orange kind of undertone to it or whatever. Yeah, but it's a sweet beer. So again, if you like sweet, you'll like that. Both that and the Purple
Fields.
Purple Fields. Both very good.
Make sure you guys go up to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road. Make sure you let them know that Birdland BS sent you. And when you do, they'll give you 10% off your purchase.
All right, I guess we got to do this, right?
All right, hold on a second.
Shell and tell. It's Terps.
Do you want to do your breaking news first, or you want me to give a disclaimer first?
Let me get this out of the way.
Go ahead.
Let me get this out of the way.
Get your breaking news out of the way.
We're not talking much basketball, but there was breaking news that happened with the men's basketball squad right before we went live. Appreciate you, Ryan, for sending me the text update to let me know. Junior forward Jarius Hamilton was just granted his waiver finally for the upcoming season and is immediately eligible to play this coming season. That was a hurdle that they have been trying to get over now for months. The NCAA had declined his request previously. So this is a big get. This is a kid averaged 9.5 points and 4.5 rebounds last year. This gives them some added size down low, what they absolutely desperately need. And a junior that comes in with experience from Boston College. He averaged like right around 25 minutes a game with them. So if he can kind of work into a role like that with us, or even more minutes, it's only going to benefit us. This is a big get for them.
It's going to open up. When he's in the game, it's going to open up Stick's game even more.
Yeah,
right. That's going to be the big.
Well,
play
that's
here.
Sticks. Sticks is gone. You're talking about
who's the not Shoal?
Shoal Merrill, yeah.
No, who's the other guy that we just got in the offseason? I can't even forget. He's the guy
from Alabama, the big guy. Yeah. I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name, but it's going to open up. It's going to open up the game for him.
Yeah.
Right. So let me put we have people asking us for like links to these beers. We will get you we will put out a list of the past few
We need
beers.
to do that. I keep saying I'm going to do that on our social media network page or our website.
Brian did it the one day where he was like, he took a few pictures of the beers that we had. So we're going to get in the habit of that. So be on the lookout. We will get that posted here after the show. We'll get a picture of a few of the beers.
Galen Smith. That's exactly what it was.
There you go.
Yes. Thanks, Ryan.
So I'm going to put a disclaimer out here before we go any further in the Terp segment.
All right.
Birdland BS is not responsible for yours and Ryan's therapy after last week's game. Are we understood? Are we clear? As the you have appointed me the COO of the company.
Yeah.
As the chief operations officer, we will not be paying for your therapy.
It was rough. If anybody's going to need therapy, it would definitely be Ryan more than it would be me. I never saw Ryan in such a depressive state. He was telling me that we're sitting there watching the game.
It's over, man.
He's like, I'm not going to subject you to this anymore. You don't even have to come over for games. I'm going to do the podcast on my own. No, he didn't say that. But he did say, I'm not going to subject you to this. It was bad, man. I mean, listen, the odds projectors had this game at originally early on, Northwestern favored by 17. It got down to 11. And even at that point, we were all saying like, no way does Northwestern beat us by 11. No way.
No.
Well, 43-3. Yeah, it happened. They beat us by 40. Yeah. Northwestern turned into what happened to Penn State at home last year. Yeah. They absolutely steamrolled us. And it started with quarterback play, because we had talked about it last week. They hadn't named who the quarterback was going to be, and we were back and forth on if it was going to be Talia or if it was going to be Lance Lazon. We didn't know until like 2 hours before kickoff who the quarterback was going to be. They ended up going with Talia, and I'll be honest with you. First drive of the game, I thought he looked good. I thought the offense as a whole looked good. The offensive line was blocking well, pass protection-wise. I thought his throws were accurate. His throws were crisp. Now, granted, the litmus bar is pretty low when you're comparing him to what we had last year.
I was going to say, like you said good, I would use the word decent.
It was good. It got us down the field. It got us into scoring range. Couldn't finish. He ended up having to settle for a field goal. But then after that, it was all over. He tried to get too cute and forcing balls down the field into triple coverage. Poor decision. Poor throws.
Look, it wasn't even like the safety comes out of nowhere. No, the safety's fucking running with them.
You got three. You got them like they're playing the triangle defense in basketball against the wide receiver. You got three guys standing out there, and you're trying to force the ball. I get it. We want those big explosive plays, but you can't force them. You have to let them come to you. You can't throw into triple coverage like that.
That's my biggest issue here. It was, and then he's like the emotion after the fact. He was like, but it was like, darn. Like I watched his face and it was like, oh shucks. Like that's the facial expression. That's what the words that I imagine him saying as he's like standing there and going, oh, like, oh, how did I do that? Oh, like I'm like, seriously, anybody. I was watching it on TV and I fucking saw it.
Yeah.
You're playing it. You've been trained to do it and saw it. My question is, how much of waiting till the last minute? Now, when I say last minute, not for the fans, these guys only found out a week ago who was starting for this team.
Right.
We talked about that last week, that they had found out, they knew, but it wasn't being announced to anybody else. How much does that play a role into the chemistry that these guys are truly able to develop?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I talked about this prior to the game starting, and I was actually talking to Joe Carlozo, big Penn State fan, and how
how'd Penn State do?
Well, that game started out really bad for Penn State in the beginning. Penn State ended up getting back into that game. It didn't finish out well. But my point to him was there's no powder puffs on the schedule at this point. In this shortened season, this 8-1 schedule, you don't have that first week or two where you can kind of work through things against, a Division I AA team or a powder puff game. You're going straight into Big Ten play right away. And I get it. This was Northwestern. This was a game that we felt confident in that we could potentially win, come out of there with a victory. But you just don't know what you have until you've got a week of tape and until you've actually gone out there and game footage against another defense to see what you look like. And that's what I was worried about with Northwestern was Northwestern doesn't worry me about like they get 4- and 5-star recruits. That's not how that's not how they work. They develop talent. They've got guys that stay there all 4 or 5 years if they're red shirts.
Talked about that last week, yeah.
Right. And the continuity, we talk about continuity all the time. You could see how confident their offense was, how in sync they were.
The chemistry of their defense, too.
Exactly. And it just goes to show how much of a factor that really is, because this offense, when you talk about the Terps, when you change your head guy, your quarterback, you've got brand new running backs back there, new freshmen. Mm-hmm. You've got Penny Boone, who looked like a damn beast. He was huge. No idea he was that big.
Who before the show did you describe him as? You described him as somebody but bigger.
I said he kind of looked like a fat Derrick Henry. Yeah. But going back years ago, they compared him to Ron Dane as far as his size, because he had a belly on him. He was a big dude for a running back. You had Isaiah Jacobs. So you got a lot of new pieces, right? Rakim Jarrett, freshman wide receiver, highly regarded.
Didn't get his first catch until the third quarter.
Right. So you got a lot of moving pieces, a lot of new pieces. And I'll be honest with you, as bad as Talia played in this game, I didn't have that same gut feeling watching him that I had watching Josh Jackson last year. Josh Jackson at times looked like he was throwing with a blindfold on. He was throwing guys 10 or 15 yards over their head when they were 6 or 7 yards off the line of scrimmage. He was throwing passes so bad that I couldn't wrap my mind around how he's still out there. Hold on. Talia made some bad decisions, and he made a couple of terrible throws, but I could see talent in this kid, and I think over time he will get better.
He was 14 of 25.
Okay. And I still felt better about him than Josh Jackson.
With 3 interceptions.
Okay.
He did all the things that you just said you distracted from Josh Jackson.
Nope. Josh Jackson couldn't hit the broadside of a barn last year if he tried.
And after the first drive, neither could fucking Talia.
But I think that's what it was. I think you got to remember, this is a sophomore kid coming into his first collegiate football game. Again, going against a good team, not going against a powder puff, right? He got that bad interception, which wasn't a bad throw. It was a bad decision, and it got into his head, and it affected him, and he didn't have a very good game after that. But again, some of the simple throws over the middle didn't bother me.
But you didn't make that mistake once. That's my issue. You made that mistake. You even said it before. He threw into double and triple coverage multiple fucking times.
I agree.
Multiple fucking times.
But I have a feeling this will be good tape and a good learning process for him. I know a lot of fans out there at halftime were calling for the switch. They wanted to see Lance out there. They want to see what they have in Lance. You can't, especially with somebody this young, you can't pull the carpet out from underneath of him at the first sign of adversity, right? You got to give him a chance to learn. I think this kid legit needs a 2 or 3 game evaluation because nobody has any expectations for this team anyway. Give him 2 or 3 weeks to really work through it. And in 3 weeks from now, if you don't see any improvement, then you make a permanent switch to Lance. I just don't think pulling him out at halftime in this game made any sense for this team.
My issue with that statement is you're already at halftime pretty much getting blown out at that point.
It was 30-3, I think, at that time.
Right. At that point, you sit him down, and this is coaching. You sit him down and say, look, you've had some struggles, you made some rough decisions. We can all agree on that.
Okay.
But the problem was we saw a lot of the holes in his game. We saw the mechanics. After that first interception, the mechanics went out the fucking window.
I didn't see it like that. And Ryan,
do you see the picture behind me?
Ryan, Joe agrees with me. Ryan's saying the same thing. All the picks were triple coverage and still ended up as 50-50 balls. Again,
well, why
terrible.
would you even throw into triple coverage
Scott,
in the fucking
you're not hearing the argument. It was a piss poor decision to do it once, twice, 3 times. I agree with you that. Piss poor decisions, but they weren't bad throws. Talking about the actual throw themselves. No. Josh Jackson couldn't make anything. Those same passes from Josh Jackson wouldn't have been caught by anybody because they'd have been 15 yards over everybody's head.
I'm not saying that, but that makes it no different. If it's 15 yards over everybody's head, there's no fucking interception. You throw it into triple coverage. It can be a good ball all you want, but triple coverage is triple fucking coverage. Would you
again a bad decision that he can learn from? Bad decisions he can learn from.
He didn't learn from it in the same fucking game that he did it 3 fucking times.
Josh Jackson did it for a whole fucking season. If you want to keep dropping F-bombs. Talia did it for 1 game, and you're ready to pull the fucking towel on the kid.
I'm not ready to pull on the towel on the kid.
Then shut the fuck up, because he needs the time to get better. He needs the time to get acclimated in the offense.
What I'm saying is you sit him down and you say, it's coaching. It's what it is. You even said preseason the fight was tight. In a blowout game, why would you not say, look, you're still our starter. I'm sitting you down, letting you take a breath, and putting Lance in and letting him just get experience.
It's a confidence thing. And being on a shortened season, you don't have as much time to really coach like that as you would want to, because you're talking about an 8-game season, right?
So you have to do it when you have the fucking chance.
I don't think that's the right approach. They could have pulled him a little earlier and put Lance in a little earlier. It wouldn't have made much of a difference. I just think that I saw a lot more ability and potential in Talia than I ever saw in Josh Jackson.
Real quick,
ever.
You guys are getting so upset. You guys are getting red over here, like Maryland colors. But I just want to let you know, you guys are going to need a lot of therapy because the Terps are going 0-8, dude. After losing to Northwestern like that,
I said this.
Tell me someone you're going to beat.
Well, I said this team. I didn't see this team going that far.
Michigan State.
And that's
Michigan State and Rutgers are really the only winnable games, in my opinion.
But
from
Rutgers, we should win. But what happens when we?
I get that.
Games?
I get that. And Rutgers just won their first Big Ten game by beating.
2020 is just shitty, dude. It's a shitty year. It's gonna be a shitty year.
Well, and I think you also saw the hole in the game of when he has to scramble, because he had to scramble 3 times in this game and he lost 16 yards on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So. Again, this was an all-out bad coaching to me. I get what you're saying, and I understand it. I'm just saying, if it's me, it's a shortened season. You're already saying you already made it publicly known that this was a battle till the end before you made a decision on who your starting quarterback was going to be, and now you honestly. Does Locks not have to answer to the fan base to an extent and answer to the boosters? He's got to answer to all these guys. Wait a second. This is the guy that you said could come in and do well, and you put him ahead. He went 14 for 25, 94 yards. Now, I know it was in garbage time. Lance Lejean did look good. 4 for 4 for 49 yards.
It was against prevent defense. It was against prevent defense.
I understand that.
I'm not saying he looked bad. I didn't get to watch it. I actually had to go back and watch it because I had left at that point. I went back and watched it, and I think him and Nick Genero, or however you said his last name, the freshman wide receiver, I think both of them looked good. But again, it was a soft defense, and it was against prevent defense.
I don't disagree with that. My whole point behind saying it is, I am raising the red flag. This is this kid's first game, and he's already not learning from his own decisions in game. in game, that's huge, especially during a short
one
season.
game.
I understand that.
Do you? It's one game.
If he were that great, and I'm not saying he's bad, off the charts bad.
Do you trust your judgment more than you trust Mike Loxley's judgment? Be realistic.
Am I being realistic?
Oh, Jesus Christ, Scott. Here we go.
Hold on a second. Because you're the same guy that questioned his judgment last year by fucking leaving Josh Jackson in.
The Josh Jackson thing, I think, was a hush-hush, wink-wink, nod-nod type of agreement. And maybe he has that same type of agreement with Talia. Could very well be. I just think I didn't like it. It wasn't a good performance. It made me feel like shit. It was terrible watching this game. But I just didn't have that same feeling. I'm telling you, when I watched Josh Jackson last year, I literally felt like I could go out there and throw a better ball than he did because he was so far off. Talia wasn't that far off. He just made terrible decisions. There's a difference between decision-making and ability. Josh Jackson didn't have the ability to make an accurate throw last year. Talia has the ability. He just made terrible decisions, and he's got to learn from that. He's got to get that corrected.
I'll give him another few games. I'm not jumping off the bandwagon. What my point was in this game, the game was so far gone at that point that bringing Lance in just to see because we talked about it last year. We didn't really get to see what Lance did against stronger defenses. If you put him in the third quarter, right? Let's say he puts 7 points on the board. It's still prevent defense, but they're playing a little bit harder now because now you still have the rest of the game to go. If he's puts up points in his first drive, now you need to either respond with points and stop, or you need to stop him. Period. One of the two. So that's my point. Is I think that you could have learned a little bit more about Lance, especially since you've only seen Lance in 2 games. And
real quick, just to make it a little bit easier, Tally coming here. Why do you think he came here? Because of locks, or
because he wasn't getting playing time? That's what I was leading to.
He wasn't.
We all knew that he wasn't going to start Alabama. If you're not going to start Alabama, I think the next was maybe Florida State that he was supposed to go to.
There were a couple of schools that were interested in him. Yeah.
But I think we just got our hopes up thinking that it was going to be Tua, because they're like brothers. And
yeah, I don't even compare him to Tua. My expectation wasn't Tua. My expectation was a much better quarterback than what we've had the last couple of years. And I saw the potential for that in this game. I didn't see it. I saw the potential for it in this game. And that's what I'm trying to hold my hat on, because there's not a whole lot you can hang your hat on with this team right now.
No.
Flip to the other side of the ball.
Flip over. Go ahead.
The defensive side of the ball was absolutely atrocious in this game. They gave up like 530 total yards, which 325 of that was on the ground against the run.
Yeah. They got killed.
I mean, and it was literally the water boy, I'm pretty sure, threw on a jersey and was out there running the ball against us at one point.
In garbage time.
I couldn't keep up with the amount of names that they had out there they were handing the ball off to. It was
Who was the last guy? It was like Anderson or something. They're like,
I don't know.
this guy's like their third string, and he's coming out here. I'm like,
B. Water boy is what it said on the back of his jersey. All I know was that this team couldn't stop anything.
Yeah.
No. And
they couldn't get pressure either. They had 0 sacks. They had 5 tackles for a loss, and most of those came in garbage time.
Yeah.
They were not able to do anything in this sense. And some of the big names that we saw, that we know of, they played a little bit role, but it seemed as if they shouldered the role in all reality.
Yeah, I mean, you had Chance Campbell, who obviously came onto the scene last year and really impressed a lot of us. He had 15 tackles in this game. So that means that the defensive line was doing their job as far as gobbling up some of the offensive linemen to allow him to do kind of his thing. So if you're going to hang your hat on anything on the defensive side, that's a bright spot. Nick Cross, I mean, if you look at the box score, he had 9 tackles in this game, which is great. But they had him completely playing out of position. They had him up on the line for 80% of the game and not roaming the back, being a true free safety like he should be. They had him lined up as a strong safety playing in the box. It made no sense. That's not what Nick is strong at. He is a playmaking safety. He is a ball-hawking safety, and he wasn't playing that way.
No, he really didn't play. Like, there was one, I think it was a touchdown run that he got, or a touchdown pass that he got beat on. And then the angle that he took to go after, I think it was Ramsey actually, or that ran in for a touchdown, and he took a bad angle on him to get him and allowed him to get to the pylon. But there was just so many things that went wrong. The scheming in this game. He ain't here, so I can ask him to talk a little bit of shit. But what the fuck was Ruben Hippolyte in this game?
Yeah, and that's kind of what a lot of us were saying after the game is, I know Ruben, he's an inside linebacker. He plays the same position that Chance Campbell plays. The thing with him is Ruben is a damn athlete. He's probably, even as a freshman, top 2, top 3 athletes on this defense right now, right? And he's only going to get better. You got to get a guy like that on the field. If that means lining him up outside, if that means having, 2 inside linebackers out there at the time, you got to figure out a way to get this guy on the field because he's going to wreak havoc. You can't do that with him sitting on the sidelines. I think he only had like 4 tackles in this game. He wasn't out on the field very much. You got to find a way to get him in.
This comes back to my statement, coaching.
Yeah,
right?
no, listen.
Decision-making on the coaching.
If there's a decision I'm going to make real quick, a reactionary decision, and it should have happened prior to this season, Hoke needs to be gone. Hoke is a terrible defensive coordinator in my opinion, and I think he's going to be a hindrance from some of these stars that we have on defense because, again,
he thinks they're not ready, and I think he's a bad judge of talent. Yeah. He doesn't know what he's got on his team.
Right.
He doesn't know how to play Nick Cross. I think it was Ryan just said, he can't believe they were playing Cross like Brooks, and that's a great point.
Right. That's a great comparison, Ryan. I didn't even think about it that way. They were playing him exactly like Antoine Brooks. Yep.
He doesn't know what he has. He doesn't know what these guys are good at and what got him to this level, right? And you have to exploit that at the college level. To be fair, we could lose guys because of a guy like him.
Right.
Because if they see that these guys' talents aren't being utilized, if you and I know how they should be utilizing Ruben Hippolyte and Nick Cross, and their defensive coordinator doesn't, you think some kid that's being a recruit, they're going to wind up losing recruits because of it. And not only that, they could be fucking with guys' potential NFL careers because of it.
That's twofold. Yes, you're 100% right, because I actually said that to Ryan while we were sitting there watching the game. Because right now, the 2022 class that they've got lined up, especially the defensive line, is star-studded. They got nothing but 4 and 5 stars along the whole defensive line. And I started freaking out about that. I started thinking, shit, when they lay an egg like this, 43-3 to Northwestern, how does that look to these guys? They're smart enough, right, to know how a defense should be played. They're looking at stuff, and if they see something that doesn't look right, how much trust do they have in Hoke, right? So that's my fear. The other side of that argument, though, and Ryan brought up this point too, is they could see that as potential opportunity. Guys that are 4 and 5 stars that might go to a bigger college might sit for a year or two before they see the field. Whereas on this defense, because of the opportunity, they might play right away.
But at the same time,
if they're not being utilized,
Ruben Hippolyte was a 4-star, right?
Yeah, high 4-star, low 5-star. Yeah, depending on who you're asking.
And yet he's not being utilized.
Yeah. Again, it's 1 week.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, I agree with that. But it wasn't even like he was being really utilized out there, even when they were being blown out. Like if you were like, okay, we want you to get some time, go in there. No, like. He should have been out there from the get-go, first off.
Right.
But then when you get blown out, you don't even put him out there?
Right. Yeah. I listen, I agree. There needs to be some changes. Hoke would have been a change I'd have made prior to the year. But we'll see. Listen, I really don't think the Terps believed that there was going to be a football season this year. I really don't believe that they thought there was going to be a football season this year, and it just kind of happened, that it worked out. And we're kind of seeing the results of that. They just did not look prepared.
Yeah.
Nowhere near as prepared as Northwestern did.
No.
For sure.
No.
All right, so next up this coming week, we got Minnesota.
Them Golden Gophers, hon.
Coming to Maryland, making the trip down here. We'll be in the stands in cardboard form, Ryan and I.
Oh, did you get in?
We got our pictures in and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure we'll be out there for week 1. We'll see. Or for our first game anay.
So you're going to find a way out there to tailgate?
No. It's
locked down.
Yeah. I'm not doing that. We'll probably get together and tailgate at his house or something. Yeah. But listen, they just got roughed up a little bit against Michigan, lost 49-24.
Hey, they still put 24 points on the board.
That's a lot more points than we did.
That's my point.
Against Michigan than Northwestern.
Yeah.
And their running game is legit.
All right, so it's a flat out question then. What the fuck do we got to do to win this game?
They need speed. They need athleticism. Like Ryan said, I need to see more of a 3-4 defense out there. I need to see Campbell and Hippolyte and Ayinde Ali. I need to see all of those guys, the speed and the athleticism, because that's the only thing. You got to cover sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
And Ruben Hippolyte, in my opinion, is probably one of the fastest guys on this defense.
About that.
And he's smart. He's got instincts. You pair him with Campbell out there, I think that bodes well. But you're going to have to do something against this team. If Northwestern just ran for 325 yards, what's Minnesota going to do with this ridiculous offensive line that they have? Yeah. Ryan and I went to the game last year. These guys it seemed like they averaged 400 pounds across the line. They were absolutely
massive,
huge on the offensive line, and it's going to be that way again.
Well, Mohamed Abram, 26 carries for 140 yards and 2 TDs in that game against Michigan, right? So you talk about the running game, you got to stop that. But the other thing you got to be able to do is you got to get to Tanner Morgan early and often. Now, he only went 18 for 31, but 197 yards. Yes, he had 1 interception, 5 sacks. Those are the plus sides that we can kind of look at and say, okay, we need to attack from a defensive standpoint, get to him early, get to him often. Because when he's rattled, he starts making mistakes.
Right.
That's what we need. If Ruben Hippolyte's not in there, I don't know that it's happening. I don't know that there's enough of an impact.
To Ryan points, play the best 11 athletes and figure out where they stand.
I like it.
Exactly right. You got to get athleticism. You got to get speed on the field. You can't hold on to these guys in fear because they're young, or, you got to get them out there. You got to get them exposure. Let these guys do what they've done since they started playing.
And I agree. Let's put it this way. To kind of go back, right? We poked at each other, and I poked the bear a little bit earlier regarding Talia. But to your point, you have to figure out where the line is for you, and Mike Loxley has to figure out where the line is of where are you willing to say enough is enough. So
3 games. I told you that's my.
So Talia comes out and does the exact same fucking thing this game. You're okay with him continuing to play the game?
If he throws 3 interceptions into triple coverage again in the first half, yeah, I might pull the card on him this game. I don't see that happening. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and light the world on fire. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to limit the amount of shots that he does take down the field and focus in on those under 20 routes, those shorter routes that he can use his athleticism, get the ball out quick. Because I'm going to tell you now, their defensive front against our offensive line does not bode well for us. He's going to have to get the ball out quick.
And one of the things I thought was really interesting in the game, we didn't talk about this about the previous game. They talked about, hey, Mike Loxley says he likes to every 7 plays go deep. Like fucking clockwork.
Yeah.
He was going deep, and he made it predictable, right? So can that be playing a role in Talia's interceptions? Absolutely. It becomes predictable. And that's why I said I get where you guys are coming from. My whole point, and kind of to Ryan's point, and making you say the whole thing and see the whole thing, is that includes quarterback. Talia is I think right now a name. He's coming from a big program. He has ties to Locks in that, because of that, so to speak, because Locks was influential in recruiting him. There's ties there, and I get that. But when it comes down to it, if he's not the best quarterback to be leading this team, we need to make that decision, and we can't wait too late.
That's why I said I think my litmus test for him is 3 games. If I start to see progression in week 2, progression doesn't need to be light years.
Fair enough.
If I see progression in week 2 against a better team in Minnesota, you put him out there for week 3, and if I see progression, I continue with him. But if I see the same thing that I saw in Northwestern against Minnesota and against, the next team, I think it's Ohio State the 3rd week, yikes, I'm pulling him. And I'm putting the better athlete in there in Lance Lejeune. All right, Scott, it's time for the rundown.
We're going to grab my shot. We're going to do a quick cheers here.
Yeah, man.
To a pretty good show so far. We got the rundown coming for you guys.
Fuck you.
Woo! That was at you, not the shot. Jesus Christ. Shots fired already.
There was a whole lot of F-bombs in that segment.
There was a whole lot of That's the most F-bombs we've had in a Maryland segment ever.
Definitely the most F-bombs you've had. You had like 4 in one sentence.
Yeah, I did. So, all right. So this week's rundown, we're going to do it hard and fast, just like we have done before. Big news this week out of the UFC. Khabib Nurmagomedov, I think that's how you say his name.
Yep.
I'm going to take a guess.
I'm glad you did that.
He beats Justin Gaethje with a triangle choke, which was a sick move, by the way.
Yeah.
He got on his back, able to put in the choke. Gaethje actually went out like lights out. The ref had to stop the fight. And it looked lopsided a little bit with Justin actually kind of getting the stand-up game going early, landing some big shots on Khabib.
Yeah.
But he withstood him, and he's got a better ground game, Khabib does. And he let it play in here. But the biggest news was afterwards. He was very emotional, and you knew something was up because you knew, if you follow UFC, Khabib lost his father a few months back.
Yeah.
Due to a COVID, actually. There's, they said there was a COVID relation there. And his father was at every single one of his fights.
Yep. And
after this fight, he retires. Emotionally talked about. I don't know if you saw the interview, but
I did.
Very emotional. Talking about, and I was like, I kind of like teared up a little bit because he talked about the fact that after his father passed, that his mom was like, didn't think he could fight, didn't think he should fight. And he basically said to her, Mom, I need one last fight and it's for Dad. Right. And that's it. And so he basically said, look, this means it wasn't like I'm going to retire. I'm done with this. It was, I truly 1000% believe we will never see Khabib fight again. He will go away with a 15-0 record in the UFC or 13-0 record in the UFC, a 29-0 overall record in MMA. Some people are arguing the greatest fighter ever. I know that you saw
specifically John Jones.
Yeah.
John Jones did not take kindly to everybody calling him the best fighter.
Yeah, well, John Jones, if you could actually
stay off the sniff
and be able to perform in a fight, maybe we would talk. No, John Jones, pound for pound, championship for championship. Yeah, agreed. He's been in 15 title belts versus Khabib's 14, but Khabib's versus Khabib's
15 versus 4.
So that difference, yeah. I get it. But what Khabib has done for the sport, I think greatly outweighs what John Jones continues to not do for the sport.
Again, the bar isn't very high. Listen, John Jones, in his heyday, was the reason I watched UFC fighting. John Bones was the most exciting UFC fighter before he started, falling off the trails and couldn't pass a drug test and got, hit with pretty much everything. He was literally what introduced me to UFC. That's why I watched.
He was
UFC.
The best fighter for the longest time.
It was entertainment at its best.
What'd you say?
That's a negative, Ghost Right. St. Pierre was one of the best.
St. Pierre is one of the best,
yes.
And even John Bones said the only person that he feels like could come back and challenge him for his reign of best fighter ever is what he declared himself. St. Pierre would have to come back and win 2 title matches to tie his 15.
I'm champion. I love you guys, but he's a good fighter.
I love John Bones. He was super entertaining. He was the reason I watched. And I have all the respect in the world for Khabib as far as him as a fighter. I think he's a very good fighter. He's one of the best fighters.
Yeah.
To Drew's point, I just don't like the guy. There's something about him I don't like. I feel for him. Obviously I can relate with losing my father and all, and I know the kind of toll that takes on you. I can't imagine being a professional athlete and having to deal with that, especially if you have that close of a relationship to your father.
Mother Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a cultural thing with them too. I don't know, but either way, I don't look down on him for making this decision. If money talks and down the road he gets the itch to come back and fight, he's still young enough to fight again. But just based on the way he talked, it didn't sound like money would be a factor. He's made a good amount of money.
Still can't deny his impact in what he's, this is the guy. This is the guy that took down Conor.
Right.
Like the biggest loudmouth of them all that, predicted most of his fights. He took him down. Right. So I think some people argue Conor's one of, up until that was one of the greatest fighters.
Conor was right underneath John Jones for me as far as entertainment value. Everything there were 2 people that I did not miss a fight. John Jones and Conor McGregor. And it was all about the entertainment factor of it.
Agreed.
It just added a whole nother dimension. Even if you didn't like him, Conor McGregor had a cockiness about him that not everybody was a fan.
Even if you didn't like him, you were like, all right, maybe this is a guy that can fucking knock his ass out.
Either way,
shut him the fuck up.
You watched it, right? And on the female side, it was Ronda Rousey for me.
Yeah.
Like, I watched Ronda Rousey pretty much every fight that she had.
And now it's been Nunes.
Right.
Nunes she's been fucking rocking it. Like
Right.
she's been rocking her opponent. So
I got excited when Rampage used to come out.
Rampage Jackson.
He
Rampage.
did some crazy shit too.
I did
Yeah.
like Ken Shamrock back in the day too. Ken Shamrock
That
was a
was
great
real
fighter.
UFC.
Yeah,
fight
that
back
was when
then.
UFC first kind of got its thing.
Or
got it
Chuck
started.
Liddell.
Chuck Liddell is one of the greatest too.
Iceman.
Yeah, but those couple, man, were the whole reason I watched
Yeah.
this. So
I just wish UFC would go back to having a good pay-per-view every like 3-4 months.
They don't need one every fucking
now
month.
it's like
Yeah.
every other week. It feels
it's
like.
me and my friends used to get together, have a good time. Now it's like every week. It's not as fun.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's
I'm not paying $90 for every pay-per-view event every 2 weeks.
No, it doesn't make sense. That makes sense.
All right, man. So let's move on. All right, so you got to talk about baseball. I know the Orioles aren't involved in this. As we're we're getting ready to wrap up the World Series. Is the Rays and Dodgers right now? Dodgers up 3-2. Got a chance to clinch it. As this is for me, talk about entertainment value. I had high hopes for the Rays, and I still think that the Rays can pull something out here. Even down 3-2, they got to win the next 2, right? I still have faith in the Rays. They've got Snell going tonight, right?
Yeah.
I got faith that the Rays can do this, man. I would just love to see what kind of story that would be for a team of such a small payroll to beat the mega, like you talk about teams buying
Oh yeah.
a World Series.
This is the
Dodgers are
ultimate
one of them.
Moneyball story.
Exactly, man. I would just love to see that. I love the passion that they bring to the field. They play for each other. You know, it's hard to root for an AL East team, but if I'm going to root for anybody, it's the Rays.
Yeah, I mean so it's third inning right now. They're up 1-0, by the way. And a man on first. So nobody out. So it's there. But if we're going to talk about this series, can we please talk about Game 4?
The walk-off.
The walk-off double error that
Yeah.
occurred.
Unreal. One of the craziest endings that I've ever seen to a game. My emotions were like, yay, no, yay, I was all over the place in a matter of like 7 seconds.
I predicted the Dodgers to win, but I want the Rays to win because I hate the Dodgers. I just think they're good, but when he rounded third and he stumbled, I'm like, shit.
Right.
And then you see the ball come in and you see the catcher turn around and then be like, oh shit, I don't have the ball. And like he turns back the other way. And it was just, oh my God, it was craziness, emotions, roller coaster, up and down. I still think this is the game that the Dodgers pull it out. I think they win tonight. I don't think it goes to 7. If it does go to 7,
Who's pitching tonight for the Dodgers?
I actually didn't look. Let me see.
I
Hang
think
on.
it's going to Game 7. But first off, did you know that apparently the GM for the Rays that built all this is the president of operation for the Dodgers. With the
Really?
Yeah.
Was he? Wow.
Interesting.
That's funny. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So let me ask you guys this real quick, right? Game ends tonight. Dodgers win. Dodgers win the World Series.
I love it.
Who's your MVP?
Cody Bellinger.
Kershaw.
Bellinger.
Kershaw.
For the World Series, Bellinger?
I mean, he won Game 2 for them.
Okay, who?
Kershaw.
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 Yeah.
Kershaw is it for me. One, because of
Get
the
the candle off
nostalgia
the
part
back.
of it. He's got 2 wins in the
Can't-
World Series.
And get
That's
the candle
big.
off the back. You know?
You could also say Corey Seager. Corey Seager's had a hell of a series.
Yeah.
He's had a hell of a playoff run, but he's had a hell of a series.
in the series.
Right.
Yeah.
He's done really, really
The
well.
only thing I would say is if something comes out of this game, like let's say it's 1-0 until the bottom of the ninth, and somebody from LA comes up and fucking wins it.
You know, it's weird though.
That may be the clincher to an MVP title.
You know, it's
Okay.
weird. I hope it goes to a Game 7 and the Dodgers win because I need more baseball. It was just too short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a really entertaining playoffs. I will say that. Like, as much as, a lot of fans out there that aren't huge baseball fans because of the entertainment value of the Major League Baseball product, I don't know if it's just because there is no DH, and that's kind of uniformed now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just because everybody's playing balls to the wall because it's the playoffs or what it is. It's a combination of everything. But this has been a super just entertaining.
It's been one of the more
Playoffs.
entertaining playoffs that we've seen in years. I think it's because in all divisions, you've seen this. You've seen the money ball versus the buy your championship mentality in both divisions, and now here in the World Series, you're seeing that, right? So it won out in the money ball won out in the AL, money won out in the NL, right? So it really comes down to that. I think it's really interesting, and I'm really really curious to see where this goes. Like I said, I think it'll end tonight, but who knows? I would love to see a game.
I want to see the Rays win it. I want to see them to win those last two.
I'm just trying to get a World Series ball because I have a 1994 World Series ball.
Oh, really?
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Nice,
it's in a box, never because it's never been played, but this would be cool to have.
Yeah, it'd be a cool.
It would definitely be. I got to bring it up. NCAA. NCAA had a crackdown this week, and they've been cracking down all this year.
Okay,
on the teams. So Arizona Wildcats. This week it came out they have 9 allegations of misconduct.
Only 9.
Is this the basketball squad or football?
This is This is across all programs, but there are 5 level 1 allegations of the men's basketball program.
Does not surprise me one bit. There was a special on HBO. It's still out there. I think I can't think of the name of it right now. Where it was all about pay for play.
Yeah.
So that does not surprise me. And Arizona was prime in that story.
So Arizona, the Wildcats have been charged with a lack of institutional control and failure to monitor. And Wildcats coach Sean Miller has been charged with a lack of head coach control.
Wow. Interesting.
So I don't know all the details here. But level 5 allegations, or 5 level 1 allegations, level 1 allegations are seriously detrimental, or just one is detrimental to a team's what's the word I'm looking for? Eligibility and just overall ability to actually play.
Right.
You have 5 of them.
Wow.
And I think I read something like the women's swimming is involved in one of the other allegations. Wow. Like there are several different allegations out there. It's crazy to see the NCAA really starting to crack down. Right. I think they've kind of heard the fans with the pay for play shit.
Yeah.
Like,
as Ryan's saying, Sean Miller's like kind of been at the head of this whole entire thing. He basically oversees he's the head coach. Yeah. So the basketball side of it does not surprise me. The other stuff, swimming team, all that stuff. Yeah.
It's a culture at that point, which is why they get
when you're taught at the big level like that, and the basketball program, the football program, that you can get away with it. It's going to spread to the other programs. They're going to do it.
Well, and D-Bag brings up a good point. I think somebody chimed in and said, agree with them. Every NCAA team probably has something shady going on. Agreed.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why the whole thing of the NCAA makes all this fucking money. At this point, you need to pay your players. They don't need to be paid millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
I get you're covering their Jesus Christ, I am drawing blanks on words today. They're just words. They're scholarships. They're covering their tuitions. But at the same time, that money's coming from boosters.
Right.
That doesn't come from all the money the NCAA is fucking making.
Right.
It's $1 billion industry.
Right.
I just don't see them not allowed to be able to sign jerseys or take pictures or sell whatever they can. Like, you're marketing their school.
Right.
You're not even marketing the school. You're marketing the fucking players.
You need a little cash. I always, when we're like 20, it'd be nice to have cash in our pocket and have a good time.
NCAA tournament, right? March Madness.
Beers aren't cheap.
They don't just throw March Madness up there and put the logos up there. You see shots of all the players, the major players, right? They do all the commercials with it. If that's the NBA is seeing money out of that, right? Yeah. The players are seeing money out of it because you're using my likeness to promote something.
The NBA is a business. The NCAA is not a business.
Bull fucking shit.
We're here for.
You want to hear some F-bombs?
That's what they want you to believe.
You want to hear some F-bombs? Let's go.
We're here for the students.
Oh, man.
All right, talking about F-bombs. Jerry Jones is probably firing them off left, right, up, down, B, A, select, start. He's got them going every which way at this point down in Dallas, right? It is a shit show in Dallas right now. I mean, since Dak went down with the injury, you signed Andy Dalton as what you would think would be a capable backup. He comes in, looks terrible, and then, almost got his head knocked off the other night.
Illegal hit out my ass.
It was rough. You got, like I said, Zeke Elliott trying to carry the load, but when you got teams loading the box, he can't do what he's good at. You got the players throwing the coaching staff, including new head coach Mike McCarthy, under the bus right now. It is an absolute shit show in Dallas.
Well, McCarthy actually threw his players under the bus after that. Like, and I went back and watched it after hearing this, right? And he's absolutely right. When you see a hit like that, like think about, do you remember back when Joe Flacco took that hit from who was it?
Kiko
Alonso, right? Yep. Yanda got in his face. Like
that was Ryan Jensen.
Ryan Jensen got in his face. That's right. That's right. But even still, your offensive line gets him. The guys that are supposed to be protecting him get on his face. Like it's a mentality. It's a team thing. Everybody just walked away.
Yeah,
they did because of COVID. Scott.
Bull fucking shit, James. Bull fucking shit. You want to hear some F-bomb, James?
Yeah.
Jesus. No, like, but I think he brings up a good point. Like, they were like, oh, well, that whole locker room's around Dak and da-da-da. What about Andy?
Right.
What about the guy that's trying to keep you alive in a division that anybody can still win?
Right.
And now you don't protect him to the point that he gets hurt. Who knows how long he's out for? I heard predictions of 3, 4, 5 weeks for him at the minimum.
They bounced his head off the freaking turf like a basketball.
Right. Off the shoulder, then off the turf.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I agree with Mike McCarthy. There was no, like, we're here to protect our quarterback. No, like, it just enhances the me mentality in Dallas.
Did you see the press conference for Mike Nolan after the game?
Drew just talked about it.
What do you say? Dude, how about Nolan having to pause a Zoom meeting because he got hot sauce in his eye? Yeah. So I didn't catch the whole thing. I just watched the highlights of it, man. Mike Nolan's up there talking about the defense and all this other stuff, and he starts rubbing his eye, and he can't stop rubbing his eyes. Like, sorry, I got Tabasco sauce in my eye. He said he had Tabasco sauce on his finger, and he's just constantly sitting there rubbing his eye. It was absolutely hilarious.
I have to go watch this now.
It's
on the ESPN.
It's just another thing to add to Dallas and the shit show that is Dallas right now.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, Scott. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
You're going first.
Oh.
Damn it. I don't even know what these questions are. I haven't read them yet.
It's real simple to lay back, and it has to do with Dallas because it's that week of the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
So,
all right, so I probably already answered it. Fire away.
No, with all that's going on in Dallas, what do you think it's time for Jerry Jones to hire a president of operation and a GM?
Yeah, that's 2 decades overdue. At the point, that's something that should have happened in the 90s, let alone now. Jerry Jones is the biggest control freak I've ever met, or not met, but just know in professional sports. Like, that's not something that he will ever do because he's that much of a control freak. But yes, that's something that should have happened long, long ago.
I second that. What else am I going to say? No, I think you brought up a great point. The fact that this should have happened literally in the 90s.
Yeah.
And he still wants to control everything. He still wants to do it. He needs to back off. And I have the resolve for him.
What's that?
I think next year, Jerry Jones signs Bill Belichick as his GM.
Wow. That'd be epic.
Why not?
If he's going to do it with anybody, that would make sense. Go ahead, James.
And number 2 is, what's your take on Tua getting the start over Fitzmagic?
You know, I'm kind of torn on this. I think Fitzpatrick's done a great job with that team. He still shows that he's got it. He's got the energy. But let's face it, Fitzpatrick's not the face of the future. But that's a very winnable division right now. And Fitzpatrick was doing okay. New England is not what they were with Cam Newton. And right now, Buffalo's even struggling. I don't know if this was the right decision for them right now.
I get where you're coming from. I think Tua, he showed some promise. I think he's going to continue to grow and develop and do well. I think Miami could make a move now and trade Fitzpatrick to the Cowboys.
They should.
I think it makes sense. It makes sense for the Cowboys.
The Giants the Cowboys could let him sit for 2 or 3 weeks while he learns the system and still win that division.
And still win the division. And I think that's what they do. And then Miami gets something out of it with some draft picks or maybe some wide receiver.
That's a great point. Didn't think about it that way. Great point. All right, Scott, sign us out, man.
All right, guys. We want to remind all of you, make sure that you check out our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, check out all of our episodes, learn about each of us, contact us, and get yourself some Birdland BS gear. I'm always proudly wearing it. I will not be here next week, gentlemen. So you better do the show some justice.
We got you.
All right.
Less F-bombs on it.
Yeah, it will be a cleaner show. Team, keep it clean.
What am I going to say? Make sure you also check us out, bigplay.com, Big Play Twitter page, download the Big Play app. Make sure birdlandsports.com. If you guys want to check us on our social media pages, at Birdland BS is how you find us on all of them. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. We're on there at Birdland BS, at Fred BLBS, at Scott BLBS, at James 2032. There's no underscore. I've had it wrong the past few weeks. At James 2032. Make sure you go check us all out. And make sure you email us too. We've been trying to get you guys to email us. Ton of questions come up during the show. Ton of them. And they are great topics. It's hard to fit them all in. Email us some of these topics.
Email them to us. Send us on our social media. Whatever you got to do, get them to us before the show. We'll try to get them in, and we'll try to give you credit.
Exactly. birdlandbs@gmail.com is how you find us. Make sure you send us those in. If you want to listen to the audio version, you're bored, you're on your way to work, you're traveling, whatever, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. Birdland BS is how you find us. We want to appreciate you guys for tuning in, as always, each and every week. We'll see you back next Tuesday. Well, you guys will see them back next Tuesday night. I might call in. We'll see you next Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. For Fred, James, myself, and our peanut gallery that's not here, we'll see you guys.
See ya.
See ya.
It's time for the after party.
Slash call for alcohol.
It was a good show, man. It was
a great show. I love that, man.
Got the juices flowing. Got
During
the
the
blood pressure rising
During
in
the
the Terps.
Terps segment, nonetheless.
I know. Didn't expect
Sorry,
that to
Ryan,
happen
but
to
that
the
usually
Terps.
doesn't happen during Terps.
Pretty sure it'd have been 2-on-1 in my favor if Ryan would have been here this week.
I don't think the F-bombs would have been blowing up if Ryan, because he's loud.
Ryan's loud in just his normal talking voice. He doesn't even need to get loud. He just is
imagine
loud.
like a drunk night at a bar with him. Like,
Sherry, appreciate you coming in. I saw you earlier. I didn't get a chance to say anything.
We
Sherry,
gave you a shout out. The shout out.
We did. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope all is well. Appreciate you sharing and appreciate you stopping by and showing your support as always.
I got to say,
Drew, I mean, whatever with you. I don't, at this point.
Drew, we ignored you for a reason.
Nah, appreciate all the comments as always, man. Try to work them in as much as we possibly can.
So this stuff, I got to shout out. This stuff is delicious.
Yeah, pour me another one, bartender.
All right, here you go. So this is another thing that we got at Liquor Stop, and this is from Western Sun. Now we got minis of this. You remember when we got the minis of these?
Yeah, they were good.
These were delicious. So they had like a peach, and they had like another one that we got, and then we got this lime. This is flavored vodka. Shit's good.
Yeah, it is good.
And
Drew, I'm just messing with you, man. Hey, come next week. Carlozo will be here. No Scott. We got free reign. Do whatever we want.
I just gave you the keys to my house, literally. Maybe I need to talk to my wife and rethink this. All right, man.
If you got a drink out there, cheers to you guys. Cheers to Steelers week.
Drew's got the Yingling Hershey Porter at his
nice.
Week.
Cheers, Drew.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers to the 16 other people out there that are watching the last segment of the show.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys always tuning in. We always love this. If you guys are out there and you're watching, send in some things to talk about. We always talk about little things. I do want to bring up the
do you have some comments out there that you wanted to point out too?
Nah,
Start looking through, see if you can find some while Scott goes
they've
through
been
this.
finding some stuff, but I was just thinking about the Brew of the Week. Maybe we do like pictures, figureheads of all of our members, and then put like the Brew of the Week, and if we like it or not, we'll share it.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? We'll vote on it, so people know what we rate it.
Okay.
It's Brew.
I like it.
I actually like that idea. Like,
I give it 4 Fred heads.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, you just put, like people's pictures on each brew. You have the brew on the top, and then we have each person, and we just put like if we like it or not.
All right. I'll figure out a way to make that work within the website.
Wait, hold on. 4 Freds. That's a lot of Freds.
4 Fred heads. That's a whole lot of Fred. His head is huge.
Are we getting Ryan on this? We might not be able to support the page.
No, he wouldn't. The page would shut down at that point. All right, what do we got? Wait, you were about to ask me something.
No, so like I wanted to bring up the whole thing because I brought it up during.
Let's not talk Talia.
No, talking to his brother. During the segment on the 2-minute warning, we didn't bring it up during the Cowboys segment, but I really truly think it would behoove the Cowboys to trade for Fitzmagic at this point.
I agree. I mean, he's a veteran that's been in the game, who's been in multiple different offensive systems. And like I said, that NFC East is up for grabs until week 16 or week 17. It's going to be up for grabs. Like I said, I think I could literally see him coming in, sitting for 2 weeks while he gets acclimated to his receivers and learning the system and all that stuff, and still having a shot at winning that division. And I don't think it would be hard for them.
No, I don't.
I really don't.
I got something better. Just send RG3 down there. For
I'd be great with that.
Or 5th round.
I'd be great with getting rid of him and putting, having Trace.
Playing in Dome. Isn't he from the Dallas area too? He can just enjoy it down there.
Right. I'm good with that. I 100% agree.
Oh,
I think it's kind of shitty. I understand why Miami's doing it from a franchise standpoint, right? Because
I don't.
They're going to have a decent draft pick again this year. Not great. They're going to have a decent draft pick this year. They got to figure out what they're doing for the future. Is Tua definitely going to be a part of their future? So at least they get a good sample size of him now to see what they might need to add around him as far as weapons go. Their offensive line is actually pretty good. Do they need what type of wide receiver do they need to get? What type of running back do they need to get around him? What kind of offense can make him? Because if you're going to strike while the iron's hot in the AFC East, now's the time to do it. New England's going through a retool phase. They don't know what their quarterback of the future is going to be.
They don't even know if they're, let's be real. At this point, I'm not sure whether they know if they're in a retool or a rebuild.
Right. Well, exactly. And if something happens like you talked about with Belichick leaving and going to a GM role, that changes everything with New England.
I don't get it with, like, you have a guy that just came back from hip surgery.
Yeah.
Let him just sit, learn the offense. You know what you need. I'm sorry. You're in the NFL. You know what you need. You don't need Tua right now. Did Aaron Rodgers say, hey, I need this guy right now? No. He went in there, did his thing. He's at practice every day. You know what he's going to do. I think it's just a bullshit-ass move. There's no fans in the stands.
I agree that it's a shitty move.
Fitzpatrick, and next year you have Tua as your start. That was just a shitty move.
I think the
man that was crying.
The way that they handled it was shitty.
Yes.
To Drew's point,
agreed.
My thing is they never actually let Fitzpatrick. Shit, I can't see it. My thing is they never actually let Fitzpatrick in this plan. They had after the bye. He didn't know. That's what I mean. It was shitty on the way that they handled it. The communication to Fitzpatrick was poor. Obviously, for him to be that upset and not know and to be that blindsided by it is inexcusable from a business like this. So I think I understand the reasoning behind it. Don't like the way that they handled it.
But I will say, playing devil's advocate a little bit, if that's how Fitz feels about it, maybe he shouldn't have been fucking cheering when they put Tua in.
It was the end of the game and they were blowing him out. So I think he just thought, hey, I know that this kid's the quarterback of the future. It's his first NFL experience. I'm happy for the kid because he's a good dude. Right. He's a genuine good dude. I don't think it was even in his mindset that after that game he was going to be done.
I said I was playing devil's advocate. I never said I agreed with it.
I just don't want him to get blown up.
No, but I think the point is your chemistry, and we've seen this. Your chemistry on the practice field does not always translate and is not always the same as your chemistry on the field in game. And so for them to be able to take time and say, we don't know what's going to become the season. Let's put him out there. I don't think this is a move to say let's win. I think this is a move to say let's see how well everything works together.
But you're not selling tickets. There's no one coming in there. You have a guy coming off a hip.
Which is exactly why you experiment.
A guy coming off a hip surgery a year ago.
Nobody was coming to see Ryan Fitzpatrick anyway, even if they could have him. So why not experiment with this kid?
That's what I'm saying. This has absolutely nothing to do with ticket sales. This is purely about evaluating what you have and what you need to put around him for the future. Again, they're probably going to end up with a middle of the road or even higher draft pick come at the end of the year. So they got to figure out what with that number 1 and number 2 pick that they're going to have. Well, I think the Dolphins have, matter of fact, based on trades, I don't know for sure, but I swear the Dolphins have a boatload of picks.
I think they have at least 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks
last year.
I can't remember. Maybe
but they made enough trades and enough moves. I think they've got.
It don't matter. They're going to need a new quarterback in 2 years.
I don't think that. I don't think that.
I think you're jumping the gun on that a little bit. You haven't even seen him play a full game.
He's going to get fucked up this week.
Okay, so they're going to have a top 5 from Houston. That's what it was. I knew Houston had given them a draft pick. So, yeah, that was part of the Tunzel deal. So they've got – this is like one of those drafts, just like last year. This is another one for them where they can't miss. They need to know what's best to put around him. Fitzpatrick isn't going to be the future, and the only way that they can figure that out is by figuring out what
Drew apparently is on the same lines. He says he thinks that they have 2 firsts and 2 seconds, which that's where I was going with. They've got a decent amount of picks here. And look, nothing's to stop them from leveraging those picks for a trade because this division, just like the Cowboys division, is wide open.
Right. Yep. The East. The football in the East sucks right now. AFC and NFC. Right now, I mean, you got the Browns at 5-2.
Baker Mayfield threw what, 5 touchdowns this week? Isn't that what you told me, James?
Huh?
Baker threw 5 touchdowns this week?
Yeah.
Then you got Joe Burrow, who has set the record already for 300-yard games in a season for a rookie quarterback.
With a shit offensive line.
That's my point. This kid is the real deal. I've said this already a numerous amount of times, and I'll say it again. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm using every single draft pick on offensive linemen next year. I'm adding defenders through free agency.
Yeah.
If you put a half-decent offensive line around this kid, he's got decent wide receiver targets there. Take A.J. Green out of the mix. They've got good wide receiver targets there. They've got a good running back in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon improves with a better offensive line too.
Agreed.
That's a totally different team. You put some good offensive linemen.
You need to get at least 2, maybe 3 offensive linemen, and you need at least 2 defenders. I think you need for Cincinnati. I think you've got it. They need to go get an edge rusher, and they need to go get a safety.
All right, real quick.
Do that through free agency.
Yeah,
Real quick. So Dolphins apparently this year coming up, they're going to have 10 draft picks.
Yes, I knew it was a boatload.
Yeah. All right, first round their own, first round from Houston, round second their own, round second from Houston, round 3, 4, and 5 from their own, round 6 from the trade from Fitzpatrick, round 6 Seattle for the 2020 trade. From the 2020 draft trade down, round 7 from Atlanta versus Friday Charlie Harris trade.
Okay,
I guess that happened this weekend.
Right.
Fast. So, yeah.
Well, the point is they've got 4 picks in the first 64 picks of this year's draft.
Yeah,
they got to nail that.
Yeah, you have to.
If you want to take this team and make them the cream of the crop in the AFC East, which the Dolphins could absolutely do right now, they
cool.
nail those 4 picks.
I'm cool for it, but with this year being COVID, you don't know who the hell to draft.
Yes and no.
I think
there's only one, Trevor Lawrence, for the most part.
I think this year,
if you're just focused on quarterback,
it's different. It's different than baseball, where baseball is not being played. You have football being played right now. There's going to be plenty of film and plenty of tape on these guys, and you're going to have a lot of draft picks. I would not be surprised to see them take, one if they really are that invested and they want to make a push quick. I could see them trading several of those deeper round picks for maybe another second rounder. Right, and being able to put even more weapons around him. If you can get those first 4, right, in the first 2 rounds, if you take 3 of the top offensive linemen, and then you grab one guy on defense, whether it's a safety or a defensive lineman that is long-term. He's not an ultimate fix. And then you supplement that with free agency, like you're saying. Dolphins could be something to mess with next year.
The Dolphins actually have a decent young offensive lineman. They used a bunch of their picks this past year on offensive linemen too. They've got a decent offensive lineman. I really think they might get away with drafting one, maybe two offensive linemen in this draft. They need to draft 2 or 3 playmakers to put around Tua, and I think this team changes completely.
Apparently, Drew is typing so much his thumbs are hurting.
If I'm a GM, I'm just saying, like, just to throw it out there, if I have a situation where I need a quarterback, I wouldn't be mad giving away 2 number ones just to get Trevor Lawrence, to get it from the Jets, because you don't know what you're going to get the next 2 years out of these.
You're talking about the Dolphins?
No. I'm just talking about.
He's saying in general.
In general, that need a quarterback. Like, let's say New England, Dallas.
I've said it a million times.
I mean? Like, you don't know what's going on, but you know what you get with Trevor Lawrence.
There's not a single position in professional sports that's more important to a team than the quarterback position. We've seen it countless amount of times that when a team finds a quarterback, a true quarterback, a franchise-type quarterback, it not only changes their trajectory for that year, it changes their trajectory for a decade.
You want another
if
one?
they can find – no, I'm good.
All right.
A franchise quarterback, and I think Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. I think he is a lock to be a franchise-type quarterback, which is tough to say because it's always hard. You never know who's going to be the locks or anything. I haven't seen somebody look this talented. He looked great as a freshman. He could have come out of his freshman year.
Yeah.
He looks like the prototypical could step in week 1 and make a team competitive and be a starter.
Like I said, I'm giving away 2 number ones because you don't know what number one's going to pan out. How many number ones really pan out wrong?
Right.
Like, you can be the 49ers. You can be Dallas if they're not going to sign Dak.
I think there's a lot of teams that
you can give up 2 number ones the next 2 years and be fine with it.
I think the Jets, I know what you're saying. I think the Jets would even want more. Remember back in the day when the Saints gave up pretty much like 10 years worth of draft picks to get Ricky Williams?
Yeah.
That was a running back. If somebody's going to make a move to get Trevor Lawrence, because if we know this, we're a couple of guys sitting in the basement doing a sports podcast in Baltimore.
It's going to be at minimum a first, a third, and a first.
All the NFL GMs out there are well aware of Trevor Lawrence and his ability, right? And if you've got a team or an aggressive team like Jerry Jones, or you got it because maybe they don't pay Dak, right? Or you get a team like Washington who's
Giants.
Not buying into, Dwayne Haskins. Maybe they mortgage the next couple of years 3-4 draft picks to get somebody like Trevor Lawrence, not all of the draft picks, they're number ones, to get a guy like Trevor Lawrence, because that's what it takes to get a franchise quarterback.
I could see teams like the 49ers think, are a good idea. I think the Giants, think the Giants
Jones ain't bad. Everybody's not unhealthy.
I don't think Daniel Jones is a complete failure yet. He's not a failure, but he needs help too.
He's also not the answer either.
I don't know about that.
Again, in that division,
really,
it's pretty open.
When's the last time you tripped running a touchdown?
I want to see you.
When's the last time he ran a touchdown?
I want to see you run 21 miles an hour.
Anyway,
he would have had the fastest time if it wasn't for Metcalf this week.
Doesn't matter if you don't finish.
Oh my God, that play by Metcalf though, man.
Yeah,
he just looked like. You ever see those videos of like NFL players when they were kids and they're out there on the field playing against like peewee kids and they look like they're like 8 years older than every other kid on the field? That's what DK Metcalf looked like on an NFL field. He's running by guys.
He passed
like they're not fucking moving.
He passed 4 or 5 guys.
I remember Russell Wilson is like chasing after this guy, and Russell Wilson's not slow. Russell Wilson's chasing after this guy, and he sees DK Metcalf. He just turns and looks at him like, "What the fuck just happened?" See ya.
Russell Wilson's waddle. It was kind of like a waddle run.
He was booking, dude.
Well, no, like Fred said, like before the show. The thing about DK during that play, what is it? It wasn't just run. It was head down like
he looked like he jumped
like sprinter running.
He looked like he took off from the blocks.
But the thing,
he was taking off from the blocks on a 40. He just put his head down and just started running.
And when you watch his hands remind me.
Well,
I'm not going to call him Usain Bolt, but
he did.
God damn it, he wasn't
Yeah, looked like he was running track.
He ran track.
Right.
So, but the thing was, he also had to cut, like, I think they said like 10 to 15 yards back over.
Right.
It wasn't like he was in the situation. Yeah.
And this guy's like 230 pounds.
Yeah.
Running like a 4.3 flat 40 is what that equated to. Unfucking
I still think
with what 40 pounds of fucking pads and shit on.
I still think it might have been faster than that, honestly.
And the best part is they gave up no points. So it was like, you know, it's a hell
True
of
He literally
Forrest
saved
Gump type shit. I'm telling you, it was. That's how it was.
He came out of nowhere, like,
and he was chasing down a safety.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, he's gonna score. All of a sudden, you see that.
What's crazy is like if I'm him, I caught up. You almost see him take that extra second to go, okay, now. Because he caught up to him before that.
And that's what changed the game.
Yeah. Huge
for
swing.
Seattle.
Huge swing.
At that point, now granted, they ended up losing the game. I understand the Cardinals won it in overtime, but Seattle would have lost that game. If they would have let them score that touchdown, it would have never went to overtime.
Yeah.
They would have lost.
Craziness.
It was
craziness. Unreal. Well,
all right.
We're going to sign out of here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, we'll see you guys next week, 7:30. See ya.